Today's first question is, have you ever considered making an OnlyFans? Which is funny because the context of that question has changed considerably since it was asked.
It's fun. It's coincidental. It's what it is. I bet you didn't choose that question because of the thing.
Do you know about
Has
what
anything
happened
changed?
recently, Andrew?
Yes.
I do, but like, so the implication here is two things. One, OnlyFans on its technical level is just Patreon, but with a better cut percentage. So
Does it have a better cut?
Does it?
Yeah, I believe it has a better payout ratio than Patreon does.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Patreon's pretty good.
But on the flip side, OnlyFans also has a metric shit ton of porn related content creators because Patreon said no thank you please, and so they all flew over there. And so
It wasn't Patreon. It was
I was gonna say, did
MasterCard.
Did Patreon have porn?
Patreon had not safe for work content creators, and they made a policy to say like, no.
I think it still does.
Oh, right, Patreon. Sorry. You're talking about Patreon.
I don't think Patreon ever
still
stopped. Did they used to have nudity, like live?
Yes.
Yeah.
They used to have like same thing with OnlyFans now. They used to have pornography, and then they went no thank you. You can do like your little shitty topless pictures or whatever, but no sexual stuff.
Little shitty.
And so then OnlyFans was like, no, come on in, we don't care. And so now it's a problem. But but the context of OnlyFans for you would it depends on if they're asking if you would make an OnlyFans, which you can make one that isn't pornographic related and just do content updates there like you do Patreon, or you can do one for pornography.
I was gonna say, like every now and then I check on, like, I click on the profiles of people that support me on Patreon and I see what company I keep, and like sometimes it's Splatter Cat and sometimes it's Splattered Cat.
Oh, unfortunate.
Once I had that thought, I had to have it out in the world.
No, that's all right. Sometimes some thoughts are okay to just never say. Which is the
nobody tells Splatter Cat about that joke. But there's a lot of furry porn on Patreon, and I can see it via my own supporters.
I mean,
it's like when the internet's fucking weird, by the way. Like every now and then you just get somebody like following you on Twitter, and you just click on their profile, and you're like, all right, it's just all out there. It's just
it is.
It's just their whole profile. Okay. Sometimes you just see like vague leftist discourse happening on Twitter, and there's just a guy in a fucking like pup mask just responding to everything, and their profile is just a lot of stuff, and you're like, oh, yep, that's just how people use Twitter. In the same breath, they'll be like discussing the discourse and also like have an entire porn account, and you're like, this is a strange website.
It's called being horny on main, and not a lot of people do it, but
the ones that do it are noticeable.
Oh, they are noticeable.
Jesus, or the number of Ahegao avatars you have on YouTube. I think that's descending over time, but it used to be like,
it is.
I feel like 3 years ago it was like a problem. We were starting to be like, do we need to hide? In kids' YouTube, do we need to disable all avatars? Which I guess they did, because they disabled comments on kids' YouTube.
Keith, the Ahegao has been gentrified.
It's been gentrified.
There's nothing left to salvage.
Oh my god, that would be the name of this video if it wasn't like it didn't have Ahegao. I'm like, I don't know if I want
and it's
that.
Also no, it's better not to. What I'm saying is that there's the original meaning and application of the Ahegao is extremely extreme, and it's just they people ran away with it.
The Ahegao has been gentrified.
I don't think the metaphor goes as far as it probably should, but because it doesn't work too well on many fronts, but still, yeah.
But every now and then
people just think it's a funny face that people do, and it isn't. It isn't that.
Wow, is that Pokimane? Every now and then people will be like, why do you know these things? It's like, I have a fucking audience. You can't. There's so much fucking shit that just comes out just for being exposed to too many people.
Yeah, I have the problem of just always being online. Like there are
Yeah.
very rare times that something will happen and I'm like, oh, I don't know what anything is about that. A lot unless it's related to something really specifically real world. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, but
I'm also just really curious about stuff. Like I instead of the weird recoil people have, I'm like that. It's like the meme of Bender taking a picture and saying neat.
yeah.
Like it's just that. It's like, all right, well that's new. The fuck?
The aspect of having an audience and being always online, that is weird. I try, so my audience isn't necessarily very interactive in regards to anything that isn't in the video, so it really focuses more on just comments on whatever I say or do. But I like to think that I'm not a very online person. Like I check Discord every once in a while per day, and I check Twitter every once in a while, and that's about it. And the rest is just news sites and stuff that I want to follow. I do watch a bunch of YouTube though, so there's that, I suppose. But I like, there's some people that are just so, like the other day I was listening to my barber and another client just talking about Fortnite, and to them Fortnite was just like complete. Oh, there's these things that kids play. I was like, oh, it's kind of cool. And I played a little bit, and it's pretty cool. And they're talking about it as if it's some alien stuff, because obviously for them it is.
Yeah.
But they played more than I have of Fortnite. I've never played Fortnite in my entire life, but I know a lot more about it than they do, obviously. And it's sort of alienating, I suppose, whenever somebody just doesn't have that baseline of knowledge.
The discourse.
Yeah,
discourse.
just like even things. It happens to serious things and to non-serious things both. The level of I think the internet. I have felt it for years. For me, the level the internet or the capability that the internet gives me personally, and obviously everybody, to just go wherever I want with the kind of person that I am, and the knowledge that I cultivate, and I'm just not limited to the people around me. Because before the internet, I would like the things that people around me liked. Not not as in most people like something and I like it because most people like it, but in the sense that if nobody else likes that, I wouldn't be able to find it. And that goes for music, movies, games. It goes for all that. And my entire life is built on stuff like that. I can trace every single thing that I am a fan of, or that I.
It's like a weird series of happenstance things you just kind of collided with. Like,
yeah.
Like people will be like, why didn't you grow up playing Zelda or whatever? And it's like, well, life isn't a hive mind now, but it was even less of one before the internet was part of everyone's life. It's like you just went to a store and you're like, oh, look, this Silent Bomber, what's that game? And then that would be like the thing you played that summer instead of Ocarina of Time or something, because like you weren't like being forced to play the most popular thing and that's the only option or whatever. And then you just have a different childhood.
Yeah, it's the thing is, growing up, I think it's not good to get kids hooked up early on that sort of distancing their knowledge from their parents early.
Yeah.
So even I don't know how I would raise a kid in today's age, and I'm not
ban them from social media.
No, yeah, they're definitely
Slap
banned
phone
until
out of hand by never buying one.
But even putting all potential suggestions for parents that might be listening, putting all those suggestions aside, I think it's definitely important to grow a baseline of roots around you as a person when you're a kid. But it just feels so freeing, just being able to. Well, I know a lot about Diablo 2, and I did until I went to university. I was the master of Diablo 2. Nobody around me knew anything. They were all noobs, and they played just as much as I did. It just didn't check the internet, and that's. Didn't I talk about it last podcast about how Diablo 2 walkthroughs were the reason I started to become really fluent in English at the age of 17 or 16? I might have referenced it in passing.
I'm trying to think of how that story started exactly. I think you more just explained that it was like the only way to really play video games, just in large.
Yeah.
Like you just needed to know more English because it wasn't being translated to your specific version of Portuguese.
or
or any
Portuguese in
Portuguese at
general.
all. Yeah.
Or any Portuguese. Yeah.
I don't think I even thought about the language Portuguese existing until I was like 15.
I can
It's just not on the,
understand
it's
that.
just not on the drop down list. It's like Spanish,
Yeah,
Japanese, Chinese, German.
and it's despite being spoken by, I think it's right around
Other
300
Spanish,
million
other
people.
Chinese. There's two of everything.
The thing is that the most markets are not particularly rich, and the biggest one is definitely Brazilian Portuguese, and it's only like in the last 20 years, or really 20 years, has it actually become a little bit more beneficial to invest in translating to Brazilian Portuguese. So
Yeah.
that's
I
a
feel
lot of people. I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
I feel like there's an interesting video to be had just about anybody's like upbringing and why they like the media they do, because it's the most. It's not it's not like because their personality just drew them there in a massive web of possibility space. It's just like, nah, I didn't have cable.
No, Mike.
It's
Shit like that. Like growing up, I was kept like I would come from school, and then I'd go to my dad's upholstery shop, and I'd be in the back room with a shitty like this tiny TV that had bunny ears and like a Nintendo 64. So like I could play Jet Force Gemini, or I could watch not cable, which meant KQC 58, which was like the Animaniacs, followed by the Simpsons, followed by Star Trek: The Next Generation, followed by Third Rock from the Sun and Frasier. Like that was TV
Yeah.
when I was growing up. There was a cartoon for kids, a cartoon for adults, fucking Star Trek. It's a weird setup, and it explains a lot.
Yeah, I also think it comes down to a lot of access, like what kind of family you grew up in, what access they had to entertainment, and what level of freedom they gave you to that access of entertainment. So like I had the opposite, where when I was young, I learned how to figure out computers really early. And so I had access to the internet at a young age because my parents wouldn't be home, which
Before
meant
anyone
I could
even
use
knew to question your access to the internet.
Yeah, exactly. And so
Yeah.
because
And
I was
so it
left home a
ruined you
lot,
forever.
it did. But because I was left home a lot, I had access to the internet because no one was home to stop the dial-up. And so I could just sit there and use the internet all day while I waited for parents to arrive home. And so I would just go on the internet until I got bored, and then I could go downstairs and just play video games. But video games were limited because video games were based on someone buying me video games. And so I got really good at just playing specific games over and over and over and over again until I was really good at them, or I could find ways to like break them. And so then I just got used to that. I got used to like when you play a game, you do whatever you can to get through it as fast as possible and break it.
Now you just break
and
games
then-
on accident.
You do.
Well, now I
You
just break
do
games on
that.
accident. But
Yeah.
but like that's my access was, and I had mostly free range over the media I consumed. My parents only rules about what I could watch was I couldn't watch Beavis and Butthead and The Simpsons. That was it. That was literally like the only thing my parents were like, no, you can't watch that. And I was like, oh,
What a weird
okay.
pair.
Yeah, like I guess my in my parents' head, it was like The Simpsons is kind of just trash because it's just a sitcom, but with like cartoon characters. So they didn't want me picking up any of the like, I guess the bad habits of the characters in it, because no one in The
Bart,
Simpsons is a good
specifically.
character.
I can
that's like,
imagine Andrew being a good Bart.
yeah,
I think,
and
I
so
think
then,
there was like the most flaccid attempt to stop me from watching South Park at some point, but it's just my parents just never had the effort to back up any idea of policing what I was watching on TV.
yeah, and I never sought out any like bad cartoons because it just wasn't interesting to me. I didn't get the jokes; they weren't funny. So like the idea of like I watched an episode of Simpsons once and I just didn't like it because nothing about it was funny. And so I just was like, no, I'll never watch this. And Beavis and Butthead was funny, but funny in like the childish sense. Like I thought it was really funny the noises that they make or like the voices that they made. But I didn't like find the actual.
It's funny in a please make Daria later sort of way.
Yeah, like it was funny, and like of course you really like the stupidity of it all, but I didn't get the jokes. Like the context of the jokes didn't land for me. So I didn't really find much interest in watching it beyond like, okay, well, it's kind of funny to listen to the sounds and try to replicate them.
Yeah.
But so like, and
it's
because
got like
of
the
that,
guise of being a juvenile children's show, but it's actually for adults.
yeah, well, it's yeah.
So it's like kind
it's,
of a lot of the shows in that bracket were kind of just incomprehensible to kids. Like the idea of why it even was funny.
And I mean the same problem. I had the same problem with like Animaniacs. Was there were a lot of times where I laughed, but there were also a lot of times where I just didn't get it. Where I was just kind of like, I don't know what's happening. Like what is supposed to
not on your life.
Like there's a lot of jokes that just didn't land for me as a kid, but it was okay because Animaniacs was in a setup that it was like hitting you with so many different skits over and over and over again that like one of them or enough of them would land to keep your interest as a kid, but not all of them would land for me. Whereas like watching it as an adult, it was the inverse, where there's a lot of jokes that didn't land for me because they were made for kids and they weren't really that funny anymore. But then you have like these other jokes that I didn't pick up on. I was like, oh, okay, cool. But
what a weirdly horny show.
I mean, it's like Steven Spielberg WB people. Like, yeah, it's probably just a bunch of people showed up in the office one day and was like, all right, we got like 2 days to make some jokes. Let's do it. Like, so
I don't think I've ever watched it. I did. I like on my side, the television didn't end up shaping as much of my childhood as it probably would have. Cable wasn't very common back then, and even if it was, most of the stuff would be in with subtitles. So like only really after the age of like 10 or 11 did I really start paying attention to anything with subtitles. So I think not growing up with cable, it really made me just focus on other things because public television is eh. And I mean, I still watched Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon and Rurouni Kenshin and a few other anime. I liked anime in general, not really live action stuff. But what I find funny is that like stuff, it's like I can point to people, specific people that ingrained in me like for example the fact that I for a long time was a huge Tolkien buff. Was because I got a Jules Verne book as a 13-year-old, I think, for my 13th birthday. I got a Jules Verne book, and I was like, oh, look at this big book. And it was, which one was it? The Mysterious Island, I think? I don't remember exactly which one it was, but it basically sent me down a rabbit hole of just reading bigger novels. And then the Lord of the Rings movies came out, and I was like, yes, I will buy those big books and I will read them, and they were awesome.
I just discovered something really interesting. So, sorry, it's a bit of a tangent, but just on the topic of Lord of the Rings,
we're talking about, I mean, OnlyFans, so it is.
Oh yeah, no, we're fucked. But I encountered the I didn't need to follow this up on it because it'd probably make its way into like an essay at some point. But apparently, Dark Crystal like may have been tangentially related to the Lord of the Rings, and that like Jim Henson wanted to adapt Lord of the Rings, but then figured it was too much for one movie. But then like years later made Dark Crystal, which has like all the same beats, down to like finding the special relic and taking it back to the place that it needs to go in order to stop it, and then that somehow taking it there makes all the bad things just disappear immediately. Like all these really specific elements, or like being in this peaceful place that seems completely divorced from all the strife in the world, and then going out into this like horrible nightmare quest and all that as this like seemingly incapable of violence tiny creature. Like a lot going on there.
I never watched Dark Crystal.
It's really good, according to me, the unbiased person that's like, it's my favorite thing ever. So I'm a reasonable source of information.
Well, I'll look into it. It's anime though, isn't it?
No, it's puppets.
Action?
Yeah,
it's Jim Henson. Puppets. It's what he do. And every now and then, there's somebody really far away from the camera that's dressed as the puppet, but they're actually just running around doing like stunt work that the puppet can't do, and they're hoping you don't notice, but you do.
Well,
Dark Crystal's
you
fucking
do because you have a good
fascinating.
television.
I'm always afraid to write about it because I keep finding out new things about it that I would have regretted to not know about before I wrote. Like if I'd already made a thing about it. I think one of the things I've heard like a year ago was that Dark Crystal was created entirely without any English in it or any language. It was a completely made up language meant to be, and you were meant to watch the entire movie not knowing what they're saying, like without like not even subtitles. So the entire movie is designed to tell its story visually. And but then it did really poorly with test audiences, so they then went back and dubbed English into it. And it's just like, I'm like, that's so fucking fascinating. What the fuck was the production of this movie?
A mess.
That's
I
I like that idea though. I like the idea of prioritizing visual language over speech.
But sorry, back to you being a Lord of the Rings buff. And then eventually back to OnlyFans.
Back to OnlyFans. So yeah, basically what I was saying is that I can point to a specific event in my life that led me down the rabbit hole of Lord of the Rings, and for gaming it's the same thing. The first time I really interacted with a game in any measure was when a childhood friend of mine got a Sega Mega Drive, and I played, I think it was Shinobi 3. And I played Super Hang-On something or other. I don't remember what year it was. It was just like motorcycles. And I think it was like Golden Axe, maybe 1, 2, and 3. And I just played those games, and I was like, this is amazing. This, like, for me, it was, I mean, I think I was like 7 or 8 at the time. So just the interactivity of it all, it was just like, this is brilliant. This is amazing. And then very soon after that, I learned that my cousin, who had an electric guitar, so he was the coolest and still is, he had a computer and was playing things like StarCraft and Fallout and Baldur's Gate and all the good stuff of the late 90s. And I was like, I gotta be all over that. And I just spent days and days and days at this house while he was playing the guitar, which was a good thing because he would play the guitar and I would play, and then he would play the games and I would just watch, which was the original Let's Play for me, just spending hours and hours watching him play whatever he was playing. And so like all of my tastes sort of go back to, I mean, it must be like a shared experience for anybody growing up without the internet, right? Because if you're on the internet, you just sort of like, you're gonna like, why did I watch Game of Thrones? I watched Game of Thrones because I sort of heard about it on the internet. Why did I don't know. Why did I play the Outer Wilds? Because somebody I don't remember mentioned it, and it sort of stuck in my mind as an interesting game that I checked out, and then I decided to play it. And like having that, it's just vague. All the hallmarks and all the good things that I've been through after really becoming immersed on the internet, they don't really have that strong root of this person did this to me and it just led me down this path, or somebody told me, or this person specifically told me about this. And I don't know, do you guys share that? I don't know, maybe you grew up, you had internet earlier than I did. I only had internet at the age of 18. Was it? Yeah, around 18 or 19.
18.
I mean, started getting kids. I started getting internet as a teenager, but without social media, there wasn't the connectivity aspect of like the way that you find out about stuff now. Like that's sort of the new internet.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Because before then, it was just you just browse random websites at random, and there was no real direction to it. Like it didn't have the algorithm like shaping society the way that it does.
Destroying society.
Well, I mean, the idea. So the internet back in the day, back in my day, the internet was both good, like great at keeping you constantly finding, like learning stuff, but also terrible because there was no localized system to find anything. So like the advent of Google was a huge groundbreaking thing because now you could actually just kind of find what the fuck you wanted without having to spend a whole week going from like website to website, reading its stupid, shitty, whatever they call that, the link carousel or ring or whatever, the like site ring,
the site
like,
map or something.
Yeah, the site map. It's just like it's so it was awful to use the internet back in the day, but it was like exciting because everything was new. So anytime you click on a link, you don't know where the hell it's going to take you. You may accidentally find yourself learning about like auto mechanics and finding out that like there are people who think cars are going to fly in the year 2020 like one, and you're like, I don't know how they think this, but man, they're showing some crazy data on this forum post. But and then you could just like accidentally find yourself in the middle of like anarchist cookbook, here's how to make a bomb, and you're like, oh, you could just look on this on the internet, that's interesting. And like
you just gotta boil gas.
Yeah, and so like the pre Google internet was a wild west, but also fun. And post Google internet is fun, but you kind of have to like horse blinder your way through it. Like you need to stop. You need to like, if you're going on the internet to find out something, you need to focus on that. And otherwise because it's always going to keep bringing you to some kind of service, some kind of product. Like even if you look up something about computers, it's always going to be like the first page will be like 5 different applications to solve a problem for you. And that's not important. Like if you ever see a link that says like, here's how to solve a thing, and you click on it and it goes to a company website, you need to leave. It's not helpful. It's garbage.
Yeah, like, it happens so much. That's good search engine optimization though.
But that's the thing, is that everything became optimized. And optimization doesn't equal good. Optimization just equals efficient. And efficiency can be it's a double-edged sword. Yes, you can Google something and find 10 million pages of content, but now you have to sift through 10 million pages to find the content you want. And like, it's never going to be as easy as you want it to be. But yeah.
I think that's the real value of Wikipedia and just shared knowledge databases. Anything wiki style tends to be the strongest and the longest lasting on the internet. For a long time, it was message boards and just forums or there was another type. I never interacted with them, but there was.
There's like forums, there's bulletin board
like
systems,
SpeedNet or some. I don't remember.
Oh, you're talking about like our IRC. There's the IRC channels. You could be talking about the what was it? The like precursor to forums, which was the
I think
what the hell
something
is it called?
net, wasn't it?
Yeah,
something
it's like
net?
I think not .net. That's the actual thing, but
yeah, that's the thing that I'm thinking of. But because I never interacted with them for a long time. I would just spend a lot of time on forums. I mean, and you can still do that. It's just that forums are sort of,
I don't miss being a forum person.
What it was. You're talking about Usenet.
Thank you. Yeah.
Usenet was
forum people are. I mean, it's still, the thing is, you still have that community and you know the people, and it's just a sort of a bubble that you're in, obviously, but it's also very addictive because you obviously it's like being in a WhatsApp group chat thing that I apparently am in, and I receive notifications every once in a while. I have 3 of them right now.
I was very susceptible to always wanting to click on all of the glowy text that was saying that there was new threads or new posts or whatever all the time.
You must remove all the glowy text.
I had to like always clear all notifications across the entire forum that I was in, even if I wasn't reading the thread. Like I had to know. it was a bad loop. I don't like it.
Yeah, it's
like how in Discord I'd fucking mute, aside from our multiplayer server, because it has its own purposes and stuff like that. I mute like 80% of channels in every server I'm in, and also mute most entire servers I'm in.
Same. It has to. You have to though. It's just like the problem with using platforms. Unified platforms like Discord or Facebook or anything that is a portal for multiple people doing different things is that because it's so centralized, you need to absolutely just go to where you want to go on purpose instead of just being notified. That the notification loop is so disruptive to to any kind of work. I'm sure different people deal with it
Right. I
differently.
mean,
but
every single platform you
think
ever
we all
engage
know
with at
what-
any level just wants to yell at you all the time, just
all
way
the time,
too
yeah,
often.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, you have a Netflix account? Time to fucking find the setting to disable it notifying you every single day about Netflix. Like if you engage
Jesus
with any
Christ.
service on any platform, it will fucking email you every day. And that's not even that's not even counting when you get things on your phone, which anything that you get gets anywhere near your phone, it just wants to, if it can't come up with the normal reasons to notify you, it'll come up with new reasons to notify you. Like YouTube will notify you of videos by channels you didn't even subscribe to, and like
Oh my god!
and I don't mean like
I think that has happened to me once.
yeah, and I don't even mean like it'll like put them on your homepage. I mean like it'll send you a fucking push notification about a channel you don't even watch, or like I think we talked last time about how like Twitter just makes up notifications and it'll be like, here's just, I don't know, some fucking tweet, I guess. We just decided you like it. And so it won't even be like the usual excuse of like, here is a tweet from someone that you're following, or here's a tweet that somebody you're following responded to or liked or whatever. Sometimes it'll just be like, here's a fucking tweet for some reason. Like immediately after that, I said that last episode, I then got one and I shared it in our Discord, and it was just like, I don't know who this person is. no one I follow interacted with this tweet. Like, I don't know why it gave me a notification. It's like, it's recommended for you. It's like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, what the fuck?
Anytime that happens to me is, I'm always like immediate distress, block immediately,
and it'll send that shit to your phone, and then you're like, it's as a push notification, and it's like, cool, can't wait to hunt through the settings to find out if it's possible to turn this the fuck off.
I mean, I'm the kind of person that I have my phone always on mute.
There's
Like,
so many
literally
extra
always
steps
on
just to make everything shut up. Yeah, my phone's always on mute.
And
But it's just that when I open it, I'll just have the notifications, and it's just like, that's not my email. It's just some bullshit. I don't want this.
But I think, there's a lot of people that just, those notifications are very effective. They get the ping on the phone, they open it. It's eyes on content, and that is very, very powerful. Obviously, it loses power over time, but that's the problem. It's the over time doesn't matter. It's the next semester that matters. It's my business report, and it's always down to the profit motive of whatever company is making whatever platform we're in. And Twitter in most social media is just based on trying to extract more value out of their customers rather than necessarily providing a better service. And that's why whenever it's kind of complicated, I think, when people say that if something is free, you are the product. I don't think that's necessarily true all the time, but I think the fact of the matter is that it is true for a lot of the social medias. You're definitely the product in a Facebook or in a Twitter, and you're the one they sell, and maybe not you, but somebody who has more followers than you. But the understanding that on a sort of intuitive level, that you are the product in a platform like that, it's difficult because nobody tells you, and you can only, like, I know that because I work with I'm a web developer. I have a YouTube channel. I maintain a community, and having the understanding of maintaining a community as a job, and then you apply that logic to a huge platform like YouTube or like OnlyFans or like Twitter, and you have it's sort of the same thing, but just on a much bigger level. That I think that's something that people just are not aware of, and it's very difficult for people to really understand that they're just being used. Like, if you use a platform like Twitter and Facebook without critical approach and it's not even just critical thinking. You should do critical thinking all the time, but just having a critical approach of what you're seeing and why you're seeing it, and being informed of that. You're just being used. You're just being led by the leash.
I mean, I would say anytime you're viewing something, it's because of money. Someone paid to make you see what you're seeing.
Well, not this podcast.
Yes.
Yes. I don't get paid. I don't monetize the podcast.
someone paid YouTube to send a video with X amount of views to a person, or
But that's the thing. It's the
YouTube
larger
is-
platform monetizes everybody, including us.
well, that's
And they
the thing is-
monetize our videos, but they monetize also our viewing content, viewing habits, because it's very valuable for them to know that you dismissed a notification, because it's not just you, it's millions of people who did that. And so the percentage of 60% dismissing this notification and 65% dismissing the other notification, so it's worse on one and better on the other, that is gold for a platform like YouTube, because they make millions out of that. Because those 5% differences, it's just they optimize. It's so just like, you know, squeezing blood from a stone in a very really, really dehumanizing way, because that's why people, like, whenever people say, I don't care if they have my data, I understand that sentiment. People using Google or using YouTube or whatever, and I say Google, I mean the search engine. People using those services and not caring about them having their data or their privacy or whatever. And it's fine to not, you don't have anything to hide. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect you. I understand that feeling. But it isn't the problem with big companies, and any company, but big companies in particular. The problem with them having your data isn't that they have your data specifically, is that they have everybody else's data to compare your data to. So they can use your data in a way that you can't even tell, and you can't even begin to think how they're going to use it. So whenever you see an ad, it's targeted to you in a very insidious way, and not in the nice way, because you're looking for, like, who? That's the dumbest argument, though. I'm sorry, it's a tangent, but like people being like, oh, I like ads, targeted ads. They're a good thing because I don't want to see ads for things that I don't like. No, that's not what's happening, though. Targeted ads aren't for things that you don't like. Targeted ads are predatory ads because they are obviously for things that you're going to like eventually, but that's not the point.
They're
It's
learning
things
the
that
best
you
way
don't
to
need.
that they're often it's things you don't need, and it's also
Yeah.
they're often finding ways to have more and more manipulative hooks to get you to buy the thing. Like
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
learning
it's
more and
just-
more insidiously how to do it. Like
It's
one of the
so
things that
bad.
goes on right now is that when you're on various services, you have like these like videos that play that have like a little video game where like really rudimentary choices are being made, and the
Yeah.
guy in the video is making really stupid mistakes, and it's like, you can do better, can't you?
Help
Why
him
don't
out,
you
yeah.
play the game? It's like fucking let's play backseat gaming comments are a form of fucking targeted ad now. Like,
I've seen that. Yeah,
yeah.
I've seen.
I've seen several flavors of that, and I'm just like, what the fuck is this?
It's the problem. I think it's not on the individual to have the capacity or even the duty to make an informed decision about targeted advertisement or algorithmic content in TikTok or whatever. It should be down to us as a society, and when I say us, I mean all humans, not just whatever country we're in or the government or just us like nerds. It should be all of us. The society should be targeted towards making good things and not profit. Of course, it's a much deeper conversation, but still.
It's part of why there was all that
we-
hubbub about like YouTube serving content to kids, was the fact that then they were in this, they were knowingly in this targeted ad algorithm, and it was figuring out how to manipulate the children at a young age.
Children, yep.
There's a weird, I'll never really understand, I guess the approach that some parents have with this like unlimited freedom, but it's someone else's job kind of approach. Like they have this idea that like, I'm going to give my child full access to the internet and just assume that the government or a corporation will be responsible and not like make my child go to bad places. And like YouTube isn't for kids.
Let the algorithm
you-
raise my child with Spider-Man Elsa fetish videos.
But like when you go to YouTube and you create a profile, it does specifically say, hey bud, just a heads up, you ain't 13, you ain't gonna be here.
Yeah, I had to
And
lie about my age when I
somehow-
made my first YouTube account.
But that's the thing. You had to lie about your age. Like,
Yeah.
just I'm not gonna say that someone's a bad parent, but like parental controls exist on a router, and it's really inexcusable that you can't figure out like basic fucking shit for yourself. Like, I can right now make it so that any computer except for my own personal computer tries to access like GoDaddy.com, it's blocked. It's easy. It's very easy to do. It's almost so easy. It's insulting to
GoDaddy.
network
That sounds like one of
engineers,
them OnlyFans.
right? I picked it so
Yeah,
that way if
I
I said
know.
it and people went to GoDaddy, they would just get domain hosting and then would be like, "Oh, is that a bad site?" No, sorry.
It is. Don't do GoDaddy. They suck.
Well, yeah, it's it's overpriced, but it doesn't matter. The point is that if I was to raise children in the current year, that child would have the very smallest scope of access to the internet possible. Like, I would, even so far as like because I have the knowledge, I could block ports. I could say, guess what, kid? I'll give you access to any game you want, but I'm gonna block every multiplayer server port available for your computer, so you can't even get to the internet using your games. You want to play Overwatch? I hope you like playing against bots because you can't even connect. Like,
You will
that's
reach an unreasonably old age still thinking you're good at Age of Empires without being crushed by real
Yeah.
Counter
players.
Strike.
I can do that.
No,
It is
Counter Strike
so
will
easy.
crush you with the bots fucking auto aim and cheat.
The new one,
Yeah.
don't. The
No,
new
the
ones
bu-
don't. The old ones would. They
I
Oh,
made
yeah,
the
the
mistake
old bot.
having known nothing about online multiplayer really at the time, but just that people talked about Counter Strike a lot and thought it was good. I bought it on the
Oh, they
Xbox
would cheat so much?
back as a kid, and
Oh no.
I literally played one match and then never played it again because it's unplayable.
Yes.
The random fucking
Yeah,
bots
imagine.
just stand there and instant headshot you the moment you walk into a room. It's like it's not even a game. What the fuck?
I wonder if they made it for mouse users.
They made it for not
what,
people.
Counter-Strike?
Fuck the Counter Strike
Yeah,
versus
because you
bots
can use a
on
mouse
console.
on the Xbox. Oh yeah. I don't know.
Well, I think the Valve box was made as kind of like a, hey, we have some really popular games. Let's like make some money on consoles real quick. So I don't know if there's actually like effort put into optimizing Counter-Strike bots for console players. I think it was just,
I think
hey, how
There
can you
should
get
have
this
there
game
there should
onto
have
the
been.
Xbox?
They were selling it.
I
Just going back to the access on the internet to kids, it's I think it's easy to blame individual parents for just being bad parents because there's no two ways around it as well. If you're just letting your kid have unlimited access to the internet from an early age, yeah, you're a bad parent. But the problem is that it's so alluring, you know?
Oh yeah, because being a
you
parent
have
sounds
apps for
fucking
kids.
exhausting all the time.
Yeah, can you imagine having to watch all of the videos that your kid is gonna watch and then
Having
make
a
a playlist
dog
or whatever?
seems like too much to me.
Yeah.
Whenever
Exactly.
my household all wants to go somewhere together and it's not just like a day trip, there's the question of like what happens to the 4 dogs that will just shit themselves and starve if they aren't being taken care of over the course of the weekend, like because they're just idiots. The difference between dogs and children is that children grow up. But dogs are still
Yeah.
like a lower dogs are like a lower consequence, lower like difficulty thing overall, and it's still like what a fucking pain. This life form is fucking dependent on you all the time for like a decade, and for children it's like 2 decades. I'm like it's too fucking much. The fuck, how does
I think
anyone
from
have
the
how
age-
does anyone have kids?
I think from the age of like 13 or 14, it probably slows down a little.
It becomes
Because it just-
new different stresses.
Yeah, but it's in terms of like the control that you have to have on a 13-year-old. I think that the age is probably more, for a minimum age for YouTube, it's probably more or less around where it should be. Maybe 14 would probably be a better one, but I don't know. Kids are grown by the age of 12 a lot. So, when I say grown, I mean capable of having a
Yeah,
personality.
you're not
and
worried about them
tastes.
dying from moment to moment
Yeah.
the way that you are the
I mean,
entire like
they'll
first
still bang their
decade.
head for stupid reasons, but it's just on a content experience thing, like I think even a lot of the young adult fiction that exists is conscious of the aspect that kids at the age when they become teenagers, they just sort of start purposely going away from what their parents have been teaching them all their lives and all that. And obviously, like, there's the stereotypes of the rebellious teenager and all that. But stereotypes don't actually matter if they don't apply. And I think in specifically in regards to content consumption, I think after the age of 12, you probably or 13, you probably, as a parent, probably don't need to worry as much. It's just about creating the habits of being capable of watching and reading and viewing and all and playing things with a critical mind. I remember my dad when I was a kid. Anytime there was, he still does that every once in a while. He's a silly goose. But like when in
Silly
movies, whenever
goose.
there were, whenever in movies there would be a more incredulous scene of somebody jumping off the sky riser or like a car chase or whatever, he would just exclaim. Like he'd be watching the movie with us or whatever, and he would just exclaim, "Oh, they're lying so much with that." And I think that comes from the preoccupation. Yeah,
this movie is liars.
Yeah, he said. I don't think what he says specifically translates very well, but it's more or less that. But I think that comes from the preoccupation that it's important for a kid to know what is fiction and what is not. And when it comes to, that's why ads are so damaging to kids, because they cannot. And so when I say damaging, another word for it is effective against kids or on kids, is because kids just can't tell that somebody is trying to sell them things. And if you make an ad for kids, they just cannot tell. It's not something that they're equipped with, like mentally. It's
a lot of children's most formative like art moments, like media growing up, was a fucking toy line getting like outdated and then wanting to kill off those characters to replace with another toy line, and everyone's like, oh my god, I've been traumatized since I was 8 when Optimus died. And it's like, they were never meant to matter. They were just fucking products, and they were like, break these toys so we can put new toys out.
Yeah,
it was a commercial, and they were like, we didn't know this was gonna like affect people like this. Oh fuck, we didn't. Yeah, you weren't taking it very seriously, were you fuckers? Oh,
the death, right? The death that they didn't expect.
Like the people that made the movie weren't expecting it to like affect people the way it did, because they were just cynically fucking replacing a toy line with another toy line.
Yep.
It's I don't know that. What do you? It's funny to even believe that there is, like, television at its core has to be marketable. It's like always operating on a net negative. Like you have to be, there has to be some amount of advertisement at all times. Like even when you see stuff that's like commercial free, it says sponsored by. It's telling you it's a commercial, but just one long commercial. Like
mm-hmm.
There is no, like, when you have media content being sent to you, so any kind of entertainment being sent to you of some kind, whether the movies, music on the radio or TV or internet, it has to be with the addition of a giant fat anchor of ads. It has to. You cannot have anything else. Like it doesn't work.
I don't think you're right though. Like it has to be in the world of today. It has, but hypothetically.
So for context, I pay $13 for a movie ticket. I go sit down in my seat to watch a movie, and I am inundated with at least 6 advertisements before I can watch a fucking movie I paid for. I paid full price for this movie. Like, why am I watching ads in front of a movie? The movie doesn't have ads. Thank God. But
yeah. Like on some level, there's the aspect of like, oh look, it's some other movies. Isn't this fun? And it's like, to some extent, I'm like, oh, I like seeing ads about other movies because it's like, I'm here to see movies and would like to know about other movies.
No,
but that is not what the experience of seeing a movie is. They'll be like, Coke.
Yes.
And I'm like, I'm like, wrong. Like, if I'm seeing a Marvel movie, I might want to see that other Marvel movies are coming out. I don't want an ad for Coke. What the fuck?
It's infuriating.
I don't want to see, like, what is it? What was the one that I got really sick of seeing was like One Direction's ad that had like some sports guy, and it was like a Pepsi commercial. It's like a 3-way ad for 3 things I don't want and are not the movie. I'm here to watch The Green Room. None of these are The Green Room. None of these are other thrillers I might like if I like Green Room. It's like
it's bad. Like, yeah, I went to go watch a horror movie, and right before it started, so it did like, here's a commercial for Coke. Here are some movies you want to watch. Here's a commercial for Coke. Time for the movie. And I'm like, the tone you just set is so fucking awful, and I don't want to be here. And like, it's just, and again, it's baffling. Like, because you know, again, you're on the radio. It's technically free. Like, you could buy a fucking radio at Goodwill for $1 and turn it on, and you have access to the radio. And 90% of the time you turn to a radio station, it's going to be ads. Like, you're just going to turn it on, and it's going to be ads at some point. You just have to wait for it to go away.
One of the primary selling points that a dying station will constantly beat you over the head over is how much time there is between the ad breaks. Like, wow, it's incredible. Aren't we your favorite station now? There's fewer ads. That's the selling point. It's less annoying than other stations.
Yeah, it's just it's everything. Every type of media has ads on it, and it has to be sent to, like, people have to see those ads. That's the entire presumption here, is that everybody has to look at ads in their lifetime, which is like some weird indentured obligation that I never signed up for. I never asked for, but I have to if I want to have entertainment. You don't have to, though. How do you get entertainment without advertisements?
Not all the time. Not like, for example. Not all the time. Like, obviously, you have to function in a lot of scenarios, for sure. But like, for example, Spotify. For a long time I was considering getting a subscription to Spotify. I knew how the service worked in terms of ad free, or not ad free, but a free account, the limitations and all that. But really, what made me not want to have the free version and want to pay for the premium version was the ads, because you can't, it's terrible. It's a terrible experience. But
what service was it? Was it like Hulu that would like still serve you ads in one of their premium services that you were paying for?
Yeah, so
you have to pay even more to not
Hulu
have
free.
ads. And you're like, what the fuck? I'm paying you.
Yeah, there's Hulu free, there's Hulu Premium, and there's Hulu Premium without ads. So the premium just gives you access to like specific shows. Like, basically, Hulu Premium gives you access to television channel shows that you would otherwise have to pay for that television channel's own stupid subscription service for. And that way you can watch those without having to pay for those. But they have to make that money somehow, so you have to get ads with it. But if you pay for the no ads version, you get to watch everything without ads, except for the beginning of the fucking content will still tell you if there's goddamn like a show's coming back on the air. It'll still tell you like, hey, you're watching this. It's coming back in August. And you're like, I didn't ask you about that, did I? Did I fucking ask you? No, stop advertising to me. I paid you money. Like, what is the transaction
I don't
here?
think I've ever fully recovered from the experience of watching the entirety of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood on YouTube, where every single episode had 2 ad breaks that was the same cracker commercial every time. No variation. It was literally just the same commercial every time for the entire 50 episodes.
I did that for what was it? I was watching
did that
Hulu.
For Elfen Lied, I think.
I was trying to watch Hulu for that.
Elfen Lied, see. Yeah,
I was trying to watch something on Hulu, and I remember after it gave me the same car commercial the 3rd time in a row, my only option was to steal the video. Like, I had to just steal it. I couldn't watch it. I was like, I can't. My options are either pay money to watch this one piece of media without ads, or it would take less time to go steal it and then watch it without any ads at all. And I was like, I'm not gonna and I looked at, you can look at the bar and it tells you how many ads you're gonna get at what times the ads are gonna be. And there were still 4 more ads left. I was like, if it's another car commercial, I will fucking kill myself. I have to go. I have to do anything else. It would have been, I don't know, because I fucking left. Like, I just didn't want anything to do with it. And you can't report them. Like, I wish you could just report an ad and be like, no, please don't. If you show this to me again, this will cause me severe distress and I will die. Please don't show me this ad again.
I will literally die.
I just do not want to see. I hate car commercials. I fucking hate car commercials. They are voidless, emptyless, soulless fucking commercials. Just people doing things that aren't driving in a car, because why the fuck would you show that? That's so boring. It's so boring to watch someone drive a fucking car. And then it's like,
I mean, the funniest thing about car commercials is that they're fucking CG. They're not even real people driving in cars.
That's also another problem. But it's just like every time you watch a car commercial, it's somebody like doing something with a car in the background, where it's like, the identity. We went on this family trip with each other, and we're gonna have a good life together. Thank God this car brought us to the hills. And
it's what I was talking about before in the other podcast, is that they don't sell you the product, they sell you the identity.
Yeah, like country music. Boys around here drinking their ice cold beer, talking about girls, talking about trucks, chew tobacco, spit, dirt roads, list of other things that you should have as a personality.
Country music is just an advertisement for a lifestyle, and it's not interesting.
I'll never get over the fact that that motherfucking Blake Shelton's the American Idol guy. He's like the least country person on the fucking planet, and he fucking made a song that's just like a checklist of like what he thinks country people are like, and it worked. It's really fucking popular, and it's just a fucking list. I'll never get it over. The chorus for the boys around here drinking that ice cold beer, talking about girls, talking about trucks, running them red dirt roads out, kicking up dust. The boys around here sending up a prayer to the man upstairs. Backwoods legit, don't talk no shit. Chew tobacco, spit. This is music. It's just a fucking car commercial. It's just a fucking like cynical, it's that fucking meme of like fucking here's your California folk punk starter kit. Here's all the clothing you're supposed to wear if this is your personality. Like, that's just the song, and it's written by someone who abso-fucking-lutely does not live that life. He googled it. And then he went back to his fucking high-rise apartment that he goes home to when he's done hosting American Idol.
Yeah,
it's so fucking cynical.
But just to go back to
it's indistinguishable from the parody that Bo Burnham made.
I think that's why he made it.
Yeah, you literally can't. Neither of them sound like more parody than the other.
Just to go back to the Spotify thing, is that you need to have an aversion to ads and to what they represent and how they work to actually care, because the vast majority of the people doesn't care. They listen to the radio and it has ads. That's part of the experience. They go to the cinema, it has ads. That's part of the experience. And YouTube, whatever, it's all the same. But engendering that repulsion towards ads goes against every single platform that runs on ads online. So they're never going to do that for you. It needs to come from.
Even Spotify, when you pay for it, has ads. You just don't realize. Yes. Guess what? When you if you open Spotify right now, how many of those songs are songs that you chose?
Oh, I see what you mean. That's my point. It's
always advertising. I don't want that. Because I just want the songs that I chose.
Hello, fellow YouTubers. Can I interest you in some talk shows?
Yeah, like, again, here, like, you open YouTube's front page. And I pay for YouTube Premium. I open YouTube and it's full of pages I didn't fucking ask for. Can you just show me the things that I want to see? I will make the decision on what I want to watch. Not you, not anybody else, not a fucking robot, nothing. I will decide. I will go and I will search the things I want to see. I don't want to click on the things that it tells me to click on because it fucking is an ad and I don't want it to, like...
But just to finish the story, because my story was sort of going towards that in regards to the suggested content, is I had to make a conscious decision on whether I would spend $10 or 15 or whatever, however much premium Spotify is per month on a product. I listen to a lot of music, or I listen to music a lot. That's the better thing. And I had to consider how I consume music personally and what music do I already own to know if it is a good financial decision. And it isn't. For me, it wasn't. I buy like $100 at most a year of music, and I buy albums and I rip them, and I have my library and it's all kept tidy. I have actually been buying less music the last few years. because just that's just how it goes. And that's just something that I own, or legally own, if you want to look at it that way. And it's something that in 50 years, hopefully, I'll have my playlists and I'll have my music, and I won't have to be paying Spotify for the rest of my life. So that sort of dips into how bad subscriptions are as well. But it's also part of like that just I do not want to have ads in my media consumption, and I consider paying for a service like Spotify Premium, and of course, eventually I didn't. But if people don't build that repulsion towards ads, and people then distrust themselves, nobody's going to help them. And so for teaching kids that, it's the same thing. Kids that grow up with ads, I don't see how they will ever become like me and Andrew and Keith. I suppose Keith didn't tell any story about dying of a car commercial.
Dying of a car commercial?
It's just about, but you have to, again, this goes back to like people, there's the expectation that someone's going to regulate for you. Someone will make sure that your children are protected for you. And it's like, well, yeah, but you also got to like tell them. You have to tell a child to not like ads.
I mean, that's what was so cynical about Reagan era cartoons, was that they were ads that were supposed to get you emotionally invested, so that not only would you be susceptible to the ads, but you would like emotionally defend the ads and your right to watch them and so on. Yeah. Like it becomes an ad fandom. It's like it's like they've reached their final form.
I mean, the Super Bowl thing ads is still that. I hear people talk about the Super Bowl more in the context of whatever mid game show is than the game itself.
Oh yeah, I think that's because football's actually kind of boring, and there are fewer football fans than there are people that just want to go to a party. And so the ads are like more of the highlight than the part where they look at a big green field and people go left and then sometimes right.
Yeah.
God, imagine watching a sport you have no stakes in.
That's every time I've watched a sport.
Yeah, like imagine, but I'm saying like imagine you're watching a game you have no ability to control or have stakes in, but you're expected to be emotionally invested in the failures or the success of someone else.
And they're so invested.
And they're so invested, but to a point that's like kind of alarming, where someone can get like their entire day could be ruined by someone else's like job, which is weird. Like if some guy like down the street didn't like do a very good job at ringing up my order, I don't think it would like be as destructive to my life as a bad soccer match.
It's like this weird parasocial aspect where you get completely invested in these people that don't know you exist, and what happens in their life affects your life.
And you're a Cubs fan, or you're a whatever the other ones is.
I guess you could argue Let's Play is kind of like that, where you get invested into watching someone else do something. But I don't think it's healthy to have your emotional state tied.
I don't think it's the same.
The decisions of somebody else. Like that's not really healthy.
I hope nobody's that emotionally invested in whether or not I make a jump in Metroid.
If you look at your comments, people get mad at you for not knowing where things are, or get mad at you for missing stuff, or like I don't know, not liking a thing. And it's like, why does it matter?
The liking the thing is more related to that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh no,
there are different dynamics.
A lot of the reason why a lot of YouTubers don't really want to listen to you when you ask them to like, go engage with this media and give me your opinion of it. I want to hear your takes or whatever. It's like 80% of the time you just want us to say what you already think back at you in a way that makes you feel more authoritative because I repeated your opinions back at you, and that's why most people aren't receptive. They're not really receptive to that idea and don't really want to do that. So like they don't really want to take your recommendations because your input is only valued when it's used, when it can reinforce what people already think about a thing, basically. And that's just not a fun game to play.
Well, unfortunately, there are such things as absolutes in this world. And the absolute reality is that sports is boring. It's an incredibly boring thing, and to argue about that is to argue against the actual reality of life. You cannot change that. It's not like it's like gravity. You're not going to be able to like stop gravity. It's a thing, and it will always exist. And sports will always be boring. You can
I don't
pretend
think they're
like it's
boring,
not.
though.
It's very boring. It's very
'Cause
boring. You have no weight to it. You have no stakes to it. You have no involvement to it.
But-
Anything that happens means literally fucking nothing
But
to
think-
anything. Like,
Think of things like, I don't know, synchronized gymnastics or whatever. Something that is like
Okay.
readily spectacular to watch, right? Because you can
Alright.
observe somebody being very good at their craft, and you if you get a little bit into it, you can understand the scoring system, and that's it. And you can have a good time watching something. And to a bigger or lesser extent, all sports are like that. Some sports are going to be more boring than others because they are, two different people naturally, but either because they are more tactical, or maybe they're just more repetitive, or they just don't appeal to you, or maybe they make too much noise. But at the fundamental level, I think that's why I was saying that I think you were coming coming at it from a wrong approach, which is the stakes approach. That's the fan approach. That's the identity bit. That's why people get upset about sports, is because of that obsession with the results. It isn't necessarily with the game itself, and that happens a lot with the soccer here, and I imagine it's the same with football or baseball or whatever, wherever state you are, or basketball. Those would be the three in the U.S., right? But I imagine it happens a lot there, because for the same reasons, because you just sort of build a community and an identity around being a fan of a certain team, and it isn't so much that oh man, that pass was really cool, or that goal was like all amazing, or this record was broken, or this new guy is promising, whatever. A lot of it doesn't come from the minutiae of the game. It comes from the results. And I think that's why you're saying it's boring, because if you look at it from a results perspective, then yeah, it is boring. It's super boring. And the only reason people keep watching and keep being invested in sports tends to be because it's basically like a cult. It's fun. It's like cultivated to make you ingrained into the spirit of a club.
yeah,
And,
I was gonna say, sports always, to me, from an outside perspective, felt like a weird religion. Like your parents told you had to like the sports team because that's the thing to do. Like,
That's really
you
bad.
come from this state, you have to like this team.
Wow.
Or like you're an American, you gotta love the baseball. And no, I don't, and I never will, and no one actually should in a grand scheme. Like, it's kind of a useless pastime, but it's fine. It's entertainment. You can enjoy whatever entertainment you want, but like, your emotional investment into it is kind of concerning and a little bit silly. Like, you should kind of just take a step back. It doesn't actually fucking matter if your team won or lost. It doesn't matter, because next
that sounds
year,
a lot worse than what happens here, to be honest.
because next
The
year your
people
team's going to
pressure
do the exact. They do. Like, growing up, like every holiday, there's always a football game on the television, and it's like how it's always been every year for as long as I can remember. And everyone in my family is a fan of a specific football team, because everybody.
I'm rude if I check
been.
my phone, but everyone else can't be torn away from a fucking sports show.
Yeah, and so like
That
it's
isn't
fine
even happening
because
live, probably.
I've learned the best way to get out of this is to ask really stupid questions on a very annoying level. So like, anytime someone does a timeout, why are they doing a timeout? That's fucking pathetic. They can't do the ball anymore? Come on, play the fucking game. You get millions of dollars. What are they waiting for? Come on, man. It's live. This isn't the time to do practice shit. Do practice shit when you're practicing. Why are you stopping the game? Play the game now. People immediately go like, please leave. I don't want you near my sports ball. You're ruining it for me.
That is
and
a great I do that a lot as well. Yes.
All you have to do is make it so unpleasant for other people to watch sports around you that they won't expect you to watch sports around them anymore. And that's the key to getting out of the cult. You just have to be the worst possible person to watch this thing with other people. And like, again, religion is the same way. If you're part of a religious family and you want to get out of it, you need to be as obnoxiously curious as possible. Like, why wouldn't Jesus ride around dinosaurs? If God can just make dinosaurs, why wouldn't everyone ride around dinosaurs? Dinosaurs are fucking awesome, dude. You could eat all of the infidels with dinosaurs. Just make fucking dinosaurs. What kind of goddamn deity would not have dinosaurs in the same fucking world as humans? I don't believe a God could exist without dinosaurs. Like, come on, man. Like that's not possible. And like eventually someone's gonna go, look, you're being an ass, and I don't want you near me anymore. Please leave. And that's it. You get a free out. Someone will kick you out of the religion you don't want to be a part of.
It's the name of Andrew's biography.
Yeah, just ask stupid questions. That's the name of the biography. And you can get out of most things by doing it.
It does remind me of like the time that I was just kind of stuck watching reality TV with people, and I was just noticing all the ways the show was lying and pointing that out. Oh. And they didn't like that. I learned real fast that they didn't like me noticing all the ways that the show was clearly lying, because there was just so many ways. It's so like
so blatant.
The deception and manipulation in reality TV is so nakedly obvious that it's like wrestling, where you just have to be choosing to buy into it actively the entire time in order to be invested. Because like, I don't even have like a history of watching reality TV. I was not like a sophisticated eye or whatever. I was just
that's what gives you the power, though.
It's just lying. This show's just fucking full of shit.
That's why you can see it, because you don't have the history.
You guys, there's the question, like, do they not notice this shit, or are they just like willfully ignore it because they just want to like the thing or whatever? Like I've told the story before, but I'll never get over the fucking some sort of show that was like a fucking was it Storage? I don't think it was Storage Wars. I think it was like fucking Pawn Stars or some shit. One of those kinds of like the value of whatever the fuck random shit we put on the screen that we contrive reasons to find it or whatever. Some guy found out about like a lot that there was a story that somebody buried a motorcycle in there or something. It's like, what is really contrived and like, what the fuck? And they go digging it up, and they keep digging. I'm like, oh no! They keep digging deeper and deeper, and they're finding pieces of a car instead. It's like, no, we're not getting the rare motorcycle that we were supposed to find. And then they cut to commercial break while forcing drama about the stakes of the situation, which they themselves probably planted to begin with. And after the commercial break, the fucking hole is shallower. Like way shallower, like they were starting over, and the camera was at a different angle. And after the commercial break, they're like, "Oh, we're finding the motorcycle! Wow, fantastic! This is great! Oh, it's everything we hoped it would be." And you could just see that the whole time they were finding both of them and putting them in two separate piles at two different camera angles, and it was the same hole. Like the drama was added afterwards via a bunch of close-ups and like. And and insert shots that try to create the idea that this is happening. Or like I think about like what Ego Raptor was on the Tester back in the day, like season 3 of the Tester, and the entire viewership of the entire show was basically just fans of him watching the show, to the point where you can really obviously watch the viewership drop the moment he gets voted off of the show or whatever. And every now and then he'll talk about his experience on that show and how like the dynamic was completely different in the room than it was in the editing. So like it just sort of created a bunch of drama, and that everyone was so mad at each other and hated each other, and all this other shit was happening. And like none of that was there when they were there, and they just sort of make it all up. Those entire shows are just completely fabricated. It's so weird.
But that goes, and so it brings back to like, this is how ads work. Ads work on the premise that you don't ask questions,
and the shows are ads.
Consume. Yeah, and so like you can watch an advertisement, and if you start asking questions, the ads start seeming a little bit less sensical. Like if you watch antidepressant ads, they're not very good. They're like very confusing about like, isn't your world like this? It could be like this. Take these drugs, and you go like, what? What?
That's
not how anything. I mean, that's what it is. You just have these like, you basically have this little sad looking animated cartoon character, and they're like, oh man, life is so rough. I can't keep living. And then it like, oh, but if you took blah blah blah, your life will turn into this, and it like colors the world, and there's butterflies and nature and people happy, and like they're smiling like, oh, maybe I could give it another day and I can go and do things with my friends. And like all you have to do is
Schindler's List life into a Disney movie.
Yeah, and it's like all you got to do is go talk to your doctor, ask him about this thing, and blah blah blah. And you're like, wait, shouldn't my doctor tell me if I need this? Like, wouldn't they be the one that knows about that? Why would I need to know about a specific drug? Like, what is the value of me knowing the name of a specific drug, even if like that may not be exactly my problem? Because sure, my life might be sad, but maybe it's not that sad. Should I still ask my doctor about my life not being that bright and colorful? Like, what is the value of like,
Why do
what
we
is
need
the point?
butterflies?
Yeah, what's the point at which my life needs to be that vibrant? Like, am I not taking drugs? Do I need to be taking like LSD to have that kind of a vibrant cartoon life? Or like, what happened here to make
That
this
is its own
distance?
flavor of concerning, is just the idea that prescription drugs are advertised directly to the people that they prescribed to, as opposed to like being like recommended by doctors because they're actually relevant. Like, you're not really
yeah,
the person that
It's,
should be making
illegal
that
to do that
choice.
here in Europe. It's illegal to do that in Europe.
It's
and it
technically
explains-
illegal. It's illegal here, but with the caveat that you cannot tell people that they need it. You can only you cannot advertise
That's
it as
not
something
the
that
whole
anybody can get.
advertisement.
You have to advertise it as a suggestion. Like, oh, are you happening to feel like this? Then maybe you should ask your doctor, a professional, if
That's
this
not how
particular
the caveat
drug
works.
would be good. Yep, that's it. You cannot make an advertisement that says, "Are you depressed? Take my medication and you will feel better." Because you can't do that. Only a
They
doctor
do that
can
on
recommend
purpose,
medication.
though. That's like the silliest caveat.
Well,
That's
yes,
not like
of course it is. That's that. Again, if you watch a Cartoon Network, if you watch an American cartoon channel and you look at the advertisements on that American cartoon channel, they are very specifically not saying that this thing is going to make your life better to the children, but they sure as fuck show that everyone's life is better with that specific thing. And like, that's the thing, is like, you can't directly advertise. You cannot manipulate children into thinking that a product will benefit them.
Consume Prilosec.
Yeah, like, but and obviously they're like, yeah, kids can't watch like Prilosec commercials because that's not you're not not gonna get much money from kids in Prilosec. But the but like the rules for advertisement are basically don't be scummy is the entire rules for it. Don't snake oil
And then they
on
are
TV.
scummy.
But so they just say like, okay, I won't outwardly snake oil, but I'm gonna sure as fuck sneaky snake oil. And you know, they can do that because like, yeah, obviously your doctor can recommend you go get a prescription pill if you ask them to, I guess. And most doctors aren't gonna like argue with you unless it's literally a hazard to your health. Like if you show up and you're like, hey, I want you to give me morphine, they're gonna be like, no, like I'm not gonna do that for you. But you know, if you come up, you're like, I'm feeling bummer, doctor. Can you give me some like medication?
Levosol?
They're like, yeah, I don't know names of drugs, man.
I
I
have
don't
no
watch
idea.
ads.
There's no ads of any of that here in Europe, at least here in Portugal. Like, you just don't hear about names of prescription drugs on anywhere.
Which is good. It's probably a benefit to society that you don't know about the drugs that you don't know like about drugs on a constant basis.
We don't have an opioid crisis like the US does.
Opioid crisis is a different thing. They weren't advertising opioids on the television. It was doctors giving opioids.
It was
because
doctors
they were
doing
getting
it.
money.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. But still, the pharmaceutical companies it's different. The hold that they have on the different markets, it's very different.
Well, remember, in America, anything is advertisable. Anything you can make, you can sell anything in the U.S. as long as you follow some very specific rules. But,
very shabby rules that are easy to follow.
Well, you can't make it too constrictive because then you're hurting the free market. But that's
do that. But think of our Dolores Day.
To take a nice time machine back and back and back. This is the root cause of basically why OnlyFans has had its giant exodus. And the topic in question at hand was very topical because unintentionally asking this question and answering it at a time much later has created a very relevant conversation about the fact that selling sexy times is not a very profitable business anymore in the current era. At least not in the open sense. And so, probably no one's going to be making OnlyFans now. They're going to go jump somewhere else and go make something other fan or something. But yeah.
Hensley or Just Fans.
I don't know. There's 100 of them. For every one
It
head of a
is-
hydra you kill, 3 more pop up, and eventually you'll just have to accept naked ladies in your internet feed, and
It
we'll
is-
just all move on.
It is worth pointing out that OnlyFans did not ban nudity, which is still
Oh,
pornography.
they banned pornography.
Yeah, but no, they didn't. They banned sexual acts,
which
which is
I mean, I don't consider a naked person pornography.
yeah, well,
That's if that's the
fair.
case, then I would
That's
say
fair.
that there's a lot of morticians that need to change their career paperwork.
That's fair.
'cause
I
they are-
understand what you mean, but like
Yeah.
for pinup actresses and actors, anything that even if it's racy or if it's nudity, like they will still continue to be able to, as far as I understand it anyway, they will still be
Yes.
able to continue operating on OnlyFans. But that doesn't mean that it's not a terribly awful move by the company to in relation to the community of creators that sustain the company. Because don't forget, OnlyFans, the people who own it or the stakeholders or whatever, they only get money because of everybody that is a creator working in their platform. So
yeah.
for them to act like this towards them, it is super shitty. And yeah, there's reasons behind it for, I think it's specifically in regards to MasterCard, I think, or which one
Correct.
is the one? Is it MasterCard?
It's MasterCard rules are that companies must keep stringent verification paperwork of all content creators and content created on their platform to ensure that if they just knock on your
Monetize
door one
specifically,
day
yep.
and say, "Hey, is this like child porn?" and someone
Yeah.
can go, "No,
And,
I can
like-
prove that it's not. Here's a bunch of paperwork, and it was verified by humans."
Like, even-
yeah.
And the thing is, even the rules that they are now imposing or changing, it all sounds, and if you go through it, it's all very reasonable and normal. It's just that the one-sided aspect of it, and the obviously it is one-sided because OnlyFans isn't owned by the creators; it is owned by people with money. But the one-sided aspect of it is what really struck the community of creators. And I think even people who don't do sex on OnlyFans will eventually just sort of migrate. I don't know. Maybe I see a lot of solidarity behind OnlyFans creators, because the thing is,
Yeah.
it's at the end of the day, it's a niche community. Even though it is such a famous thing, it's famous, but it is a niche. Like the creators. It's not like YouTube. Like it maybe is like YouTube back in 2011 or 2012, where it was easier for everybody to sort of know each other or anybody with a bigger audience. But now these days, nobody knows anything. When I'm talking about YouTubers specifically, not the viewers. Naturally, the viewers know what they know. I'm talking like there's no community of YouTubers. There's nothing like that. But for OnlyFansers or whatever they would be, I get the impression that there is. So I don't know. I could see. I can see a sort of a natural exodus over time towards another platform.
Yeah, I
Because
mean, that's how it's always been. You have like Backpage gets shut down and they just flutter off. It's like kicking a dumpster and the rats just run away to the next dumpster. It's the same thing. Everyone does that. When you take a community that people have and you just shake it and break it apart.
Yeah.
Most of the people will just run away and go find a new place to build a community at. And that's fine. But
So the story was that MasterCard won't support transactions or something, right?
No, so
more or less.
MasterCard will continue supporting. They have no issues support. Like
They just have new rules.
They have rules about transactions regarding any sexual nature transaction. So basically, the whole idea here is they're trying to curtail their money being used to fund abuse and exploitation. And so the easiest way to do that is to just say, all right, well, if we think a transaction is suspicious or like whoever is in charge of that, FBI, I don't know, whoever comes knocking on people's door about owning some explicit images, whoever comes and knocks on the door at MasterCard and says, hello, we see that someone bought this particular thing from here. Can you prove to us that you didn't just fund exploitation? And they can go, why, yes, give us a second. Ring, ring. Hello, OnlyFans. This person made content that was purchased by this guy who is a unsavory fellow. Can you prove that this content that was purchased is not, exploitative? And OnlyFans should be able to say, yes, that's blah blah blah. Here's their I have paperwork proving that they are an adult, they're consenting, that blah blah blah. Here you go. And they can then MasterCard takes that and gives it to the FBI and says, see, I didn't fund bad stuff. And the FBI goes, fuck it, bye. And they just leave.
So it has less to do with like puritanically trying to eradicate porn and more to do with the fact that these are like websites you can just upload shit to, and with like low moderation, and that means that it could potentially be, because they can be responsible for like everything uploaded to that site.
Exactly. And so and this is the same. This was the exact
like
same.
Al-Qaeda videos on YouTube.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And so MasterCard just says, I don't want to support that. It's my money anyways. I get to decide how my money's spent. It's my money being spent on this stuff. I don't want to spend money on this anymore. So if money will be spent on these channels, then it must have a verification process that I can call at any time and get validation for. And so OnlyFans decided that that's too much to ask. They are not going to invest the necessary infrastructure to do that kind of verification process and have that kind of paperwork to support it. But like one that Colonel suggested, Fansly, has decided to accept that amount of workload. They verify every creator that goes on their platform. They get, they just get verification to make sure they're an adult, they're a consenting adult. Any content that's made on their channel, they are, basically liable to agree to that, blah, blah, blah. And so that's the difference. OnlyFans just said, nope, we don't want to invest in that. And someone else did. And so they'll just move on there and they can still accept MasterCard and everything will be okay. And so MasterCard can go back next day and change the rules, and that's fine. But for now, that's really the only crux here. MasterCard isn't some puritanical, prudish asshole trying to destroy porn. They just
they're just evil capitalists, but still.
Well, yeah, but they have decided that their money is not going to be spent in a particular way. And they have every right to do that. It's their money.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, like, if you go through the details, it all sounds amazing, and it is. It's all rules that everybody has, even. It's just that the problem. I think the biggest issue, and I may be wrong here, so feel free to disagree all the time, but here as well, is that for a bigger company, and this happens on YouTube as well, for a bigger company, and OnlyFans is a big company, certainly after the explosive boom over the last couple of years, it is a lot more. It's not that it's more expensive for them to have the sort of safeguards and processes that have to be made for to make sure that everything is a-okay. It's not that it's more expensive for them. It is, per video or per material. It's just that it's a lot more of a cut on their profit. And so for them, it's like YouTube. All of a sudden, if you tell YouTube that they're going to lose 2% of their revenue, they're going to be like, no, we're not going to do that. But for a small company, it's not quite the same because the numbers are just different.
It also helps that like these are rules being added to a platform that has already existed. So like Fansly,
but it's also being added to other platforms.
Well, yes, but like Fansly, for example, has existed prior to OnlyFans, and they've always had this process of verification. And so now,
I see.
Yes, and so now as all these people start showing up to get verified or whatever, they have it's easier for them because now they have a funnel, so they can say like, we're only approving this many accounts at a certain time, and as we approve them, they get verified. But no one can just join and start posting immediately. OnlyFans is not like that. You can join right now. I can go make an OnlyFans for my fucking for my water bottle.
They probably know it.
And I can go and start sending saucy pics of my water bottle covered in all different types of liquid, and I can do that right now without any kind of
pics of my water bottle.
Yeah, why not, right? I could just throw some like mayonnaise on my water bottle. Ooh, that's not what goes in a water bottle. And
the ahegao truly is gentrified.
But just add
amazing.
Go in Lightroom, add
with
some
a water
like,
bottle and an ahegao.
just add some blushes to my water bottle. Same difference. On it. I'm sure you could find a sticker of ahegao and just put it on a water bottle. Probably. But I can do that with OnlyFans. I can immediately go and make an account and start posting right now. And OnlyFans isn't going to ask me to verify anything. And so they have to now go back. Basically, with these rules, they would have to put a big stop on every single content creator and go, all right, guys, so all of you need to verify. Basically, like, imagine the difference between a club that has been checking IDs and a club that hasn't been checking IDs. And so the moment the police show up to a club that has IDs, they go like, yeah, go ahead. You can go inside and everybody's got an ID.
Yeah, they were like, wow, it sure is more profitable if we don't check IDs. Good thing this won't have any long-term ramifications if we behave this way.
Exactly. And so then the police show up's like,
suddenly Kappas or whatever is mad at us because we've been serving ads to children for a decade with no consequences.
Yeah. And
Go
so
back to
that's the
YouTube
thing.
again.
And so if you want to, trying to add a process post Wild West rules, you have to do the math. And OnlyFans did the math and said, abso-fucking-lutely not. We are not going to go through and get every single content creator verified because it would cost too much money. I wouldn't even say they did
the math in response. I think that in many of these cases, I think that like the YouTube or the OnlyFans or so on knows they're actively infringing on something the whole time and that this is going to go badly. But so they've already prepped their answer, which is why it comes out so quickly when the moment the actual thing comes up, because they always knew they were going to run this thing how they were going to. And then suddenly switch gears the moment it finally became a problem. And they knew that, knowing, and they of course don't tell the content creators the whole time that they literally are planning their obsolescence the whole time that they're doing this.
This is the Uber Lyft issue where the gig work basically exists in this limbo state. And if someone when someone comes along, because it will happen, when someone comes along and says, hey, are these guys employees? And the company has to go, uh-oh, I don't know, are they? And if it is, then they get to just pack their little like Monopoly money bags and just jump out of an airplane. And all these people who are relying on this as a job.
Every modern app knows exactly what they were doing.
Yeah. This isn't like, and again, sure, this is insidious and this is bad and this is unfair, but it's not an attack on sex workers. This is the result of taking an easy platform and not doing your homework long enough. Like, it's not, you need to be careful about where you set your roots in. Don't go and build a house on top of a fucking ladder. This isn't a good idea. And it's, again, it's not the content creators. It's not like they are all to blame for this, but like OnlyFans isn't, I don't know why you would trust OnlyFans. I don't know why you would trust YouTube. I don't know why you trust any company. That's a weird thing to ever do. And to think that OnlyFans would be like looking out for you because you make them money is like the silliest of opinions. Well, like the companies don't care about about protecting who makes the money. They're cared about protecting the money. And so if they are going to lose,
right. Even though you're correct,
it's not about being right. It's not about being right. It's about
they're still
money.
Jerks for caring about the money. It's fair that people shouldn't expect.
But they've always
been for sure.
That's what that's my argument.
But society teaches us that no, companies are fine. Look at the ads that say nice things. Buy our presopatil, and there's butterflies. It's like it's everywhere. Right. If you're not at least a little bit counter culture in your way, and I'm not even talking about politics, it's just as a person you need to be counter to your environment to be capable. No, wait a minute, companies are bad, and I'm in a shitty situation, and if you have a YouTube channel and you live off of YouTube, it's bad, and we should be employees, for sure. And it's just that it doesn't work like that for it doesn't work like that for the same reason that you're not defending necessarily. You're very much attacking companies, but the reason is the role of a company isn't to serve their clients. The role of a company is to serve the stakeholders and the people who have money in the company. It's to make profit. That's the role of a company. But everywhere else in society, we forget about that. And society is built on the assumption that the role of a company is to employ you or to give you a livelihood. That's the word. To give you a livelihood. Because,
whereas the role of companies usually try to figure out how to get the value that you're providing
you.
without paying you to do it if they can.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, make no mistake, society is built on the assumption that the role of a company is to give the employer, to give them a job, to give them security, to be beneficial to society. But at the same time, it isn't. We know it isn't. It's written into law.
Yeah.
Our
It's
entire
called the
lives are
fiduciary.
structured from birth around that assumption.
Around that. Yeah. And it's all a lie. And we know it's a lie. Like, it's not up to debate. It's absolutely a lie.
I mean,
companies are out for themselves.
Companies only pay you because someone tells them they have to.
Tells them to, yeah. Otherwise, they would just,
Yeah, if they weren't forced to pay you, why the fuck would they? They would just
look at
do
Twitter.
And so
Twitter doesn't pay anybody.
They
Or
used to
TikTok
pay
doesn't
you
pay anybody.
fake money.
It's
Did they?
well, yeah. They used to
Yeah.
give
Oh,
you
yeah, the mines.
company stores.
company stores. But that's the thing is like a job, any business, even if it seems like it's there for the creators, if it especially if it says it's made for content creators, if their advertisement slogan is we put creators first, they're out to fuck you hard. They're here to kill you because the more insidious you are, the more straightforward you are about what you want to do.
You're absolutely right. Yep.
Yeah, and from like Patreon, OnlyFans, any of these like content creator driven economic scams, I want to call them, but I guess we can just call them platforms.
Especially for smaller scale, there's definitely so many scams out there.
They all exist to take your money and run. That's what they're there for. And all they have to do is wait until someone says like go. And that's what they do. The moment that any kind of policy comes up or any kind of hurdle comes up to make it more difficult for them to operate, it's easier to press the button to go. Like, it's so much easier to like either kick people off or just run completely. And because what is the harm at this point? Like, especially take OnlyFans for example. They know that a lot of people are stuck building a house on a ladder, and they know these people can't just fucking up and move their entire income sources to a new platform that all of these subscribers aren't going to necessarily jump ship to. And it's like, they've got you. They immediately hammered you down, and you have nowhere to go, and you have to slowly and hopefully rebuild that entire income source on a new area that is also trying to nail you onto it and going to screw you eventually.
Yeah.
So like I don't know. I'm very, again, I grew up in the old internet, and so I have very old views of the world. And my old view is that if you want stability in income, you take the Rooster Teeth approach. You make your own website, you make your own platform, and you hold on to that platform.
And then you sell it to some other website.
And you sell it to some big fat fucking AT&T corporation one day.
They do not own themselves.
No,
they don't anymore, but they did for a very long time.
What Andrew is describing is put in a sentence that a lot of people have heard. It's the workers need to own the means of production. That's what you're describing right there.
You should own, if you're going to make content, especially entertainment content for the internet, you need to own that content 100%. Because if someone comes along and decides that tomorrow all websites for pornography can only be accessed with a special device you attach to your ankle and it injects porn into your bloodstream, then you are in control of the vehicle for that now, because your website can be optimized to inject the fastest amount of porn into your blood as fast as possible.
That's the most gentrified Ahegao of them all.
It's just that, like, it's the same reason why unions work. It's the same reason why unions work. It's down to looking out for the workers, the things that matter to the workers, and not to the things that matter to the bosses or to the stakeholders. And it's basically, what if YouTube, instead of being owned by Google, was owned by representatives of YouTubers?
Like a YouTube co-op?
What if, like, it doesn't have to change the platform. It's just that the goals immediately change. Like, you just need to think a little bit. Think about how the algorithm exists today, and what are the goals of the algorithm? They're to make the most profit for advertisers. not to they're not to sort of cultivate a good, healthy, creative environment. They're not to serve the best content. It's not to allow channels to grow. It's not to impede channels from overusing the algorithm and just grow beyond measure for just because they're big companies like CNN and whatnot. All those things would change, or wouldn't change immediately because the algorithm would need to be changed. But the goals change so drastically that it's like, I don't understand how people don't see just how messed up it is that the goals of companies, and it happens to social media, but it happens everywhere. The goals of companies are just never for the people who actually do the work. It's never to support the people who do the work, because on YouTube, we are the people that do the work. We are the content creators are the people who do the work, not YouTube, not Google, not the advertisers, not the companies that advertise. They're not. They're clients, just like everybody else.
Like how the big thing trending right now on Twitter is what, like Prop 22 being declared illegal, unconstitutional in California. Which was
that was only by a superior court, not by the Supreme Court. But
but it's but that specifically is about how like that's an entire company desperately trying not to actually have to take care of their employees.
Yeah, and the worst criminal part of it all is that they tricked their employees into voting yes for it. They went out of their way to
most
threaten
of the country or most of the state to do that.
Oh, I know, because I voted fucking no for it, and I watched as it was voted yes, like it was some kind of weird dystopia world that people lived in. Like, are you fucking insane? How do you not see these people who on constant basis on the internet are complaining about no one tipping them enough, which is the only way that they fucking make money in that platform, and being like, oh, it's not fair, no one tips money, I'm not going to be able to survive. Yes, you did it. You found out the whole reason this company exists. To exploit you for labor, for free.
Propaganda.
Like, come on, how are you this dense? But then it's like, but if they leave, I won't have a job. Do you have one now? Because at the moment, it doesn't sound like you're making enough money to survive.
But it's true, though.
I don't get it. It's
true. The aspect of the company coming in, disrupting the market, and leaving a mess behind after basically it's highway robbery, and it's how Amazon did it. And then got to be what it is right now. It's highway robbery. They disrupt.
Oftentimes the competition is wiped out by you essentially breaking the rules, and then like the legislation comes later. Like the consequences for all the rules you break come after you've already driven all of your competition out of business, and so you've won already.
Yeah, and that's why I'm talking about how, like, it's not about if someone makes rules, it's about when. And win is always going to come, but it may not come fast enough to make you,
I think,
win.
I think it doesn't come fast enough because the conversation is, I don't understand, but specifically in regards to Lyft.
Where do you think that money goes? You don't think it just goes right into someone's pocket, do you? It also goes into someone else's pocket to make them not say anything.
But I can talk about what happened here in Portugal. For the longest time when Lyft and Uber arrived here, the most conversation that people would have in regards to the taxi drivers complaining, because we have like a similar taxi system to what a lot of cities in the US has, where you have the badge and all that, you have to go through a process where you get it and whatnot, and it's limited the amount of taxis that exist and the places where it's all regulated, and so for a long time the conversation wasn't about how bad for the market and for the workers of Uber and Lyft the app was. It was just, these laws are archaic and weird, and maybe they're good or maybe they're bad. It's all about like all these details and minutia that at the end of the day don't really matter. When Lyft and Uber leave California, it doesn't matter that the taxi drivers have a weird test and that it costs $400,000 to have the badge or whatnot. That's not the point. The point is all the people who have already at least tried to earn a living working for Uber and Lyft and now don't have that all of a sudden. And how are they going to pay the rent for it? Doesn't matter if they have a job in the next 3 months. They have 3 months of rent that they need to pay. So and do the owners of Uber and Lyft and all those companies, do they get any repercussions? They didn't even do anything illegal. It's how bad they don't get any repercussions. It's not even illegal. And it's so fucked up that it isn't. Because obviously it could be. Obviously, California could say, I'm not too involved. I don't know specifically all the details about California, but it is. I think it is obvious to me that it should be possible for them to retroactively say you did something illegal and now you have to pay, because that happens, historically happens, where companies pay huge amounts of money. Like Microsoft had a bunch of problems with that, with things that weren't even regulated, like Internet Explorer and all this sort of stuff, and they pay massive amounts of money because they did something that is deemed after the fact to be illegal. And like I understand that it's kind of sucky for us as individuals. We think, I don't know that something is illegal, I shouldn't be fined for doing it. If something isn't illegal, and it's true. I think on an individual level, like if I don't know, if I drive my car at 40 in a place that isn't 40, and all of a sudden they put a 30 up, and I get fined after the fact. That's dumb. That shouldn't happen. But it isn't the same level. An individual person breaking a rule, or a company, especially market disrupting companies, doing things on purpose because they know this works like this. The only reason they even grow in the stock marketplace is because these companies they use the potential value of the market that they know already. These are very smart people that know economics and finance, and they exploit them to the utmost. And they know that it's not gonna last. And if it is, like, they don't know the future. So it's just like, until it goes bust, it does. And then when it does, they make off like highway bandits. It's completely... just to go back to my point, I don't understand why the conversation isn't about that. And it's about stupid rules about how taxi drivers have to pass a test. And
Well, I mean,
drivers don't.
but those conversations are usually set by companies. It's like those are the speaking points. You come out
Those
there and you
discussions
say
are
like
distractions.
Yeah, they're just always distractions. And like the same thing, you go on Twitter and you look up
It's like
OnlyFans,
every time
and
someone
right
brings
now,
up trans sports, like that's a thing that matters. Like as previously established in this conversation, sports don't fucking matter.
Yeah.
So
No.
Also,
bringing
There's
it up
no-
in the like bringing that up every time anyone discusses like what human rights somebody should have is a very noticeable and obvious like intentional distraction.
But also in the case of transports, it's not like trans women are running away with gold medals, because they're not. It's just cis women winning things left and right. But if they ever find some trans woman in the Olympic
It's just that every
Games,
single time it's a gotcha where it's like you've got to be like hyper informed about trans people in sports, and you got to have all these complex discussions about it, and like know all the stuff about the rules about like how long after transitioning or this or that or whatever the fuck is involved and who gets to participate and that kind of stuff. And it's like it's all a distraction. It's a massive front load of information that you have to somehow get invested with just to argue with somebody that won't care what you say anyway, when the whole point was just to distract you from the actual topic that mattered in the first place.
Do you remember the migrant caravan? It's that.
I would burn all of sports down before I let it infringe on somebody's human rights. Like, it doesn't matter. It's a fucking game.
Yeah.
But that
Absolutely.
becomes the topic.
And that's the
So
thing.
taxi
is like,
drivers.
I don't know. It's I again, on one hand, this was an inevitability. It was OnlyFans was always going to shut down and not exist, and it just happened to be more. It just happened to happen faster than what most people expected, because it was still there was still this boom, like over the like people were still coming in droves to OnlyFans, and so to have it just like careen off a cliff immediately is like, well, it's shocking, but like. Yeah, I mean, this was going to happen someday. This wasn't, if you look at the discourse on Twitter, a lot of it is about people being upset that they're like, oh, once again, we're being shoved out of our, like, a place that we've made. And it's like, no, this is what was always supposed to happen. It was always supposed to fail.
But it doesn't, both things can be true, though.
I guess, but they're not explicitly saying that. So again, they're not saying that they would love to keep letting that content exist. They just don't want to follow the rules that comes with it. So it's not that they don't want those people on the platform. They just don't want to follow the rules that come with those people on the platform.
Because
So
they were only
that's the thing.
valuable
It's-
as an income source and not like a
Yes.
culture or anything.
Exactly. This and OnlyFans never said it was supposed to be a safe haven. It never said or never promised it was going to always be there. But like people think it did because that was like, you know, the
People
culture
think
that
YouTube is out to look for them. Like people
Well, I
are
mean,
It's not. I don't think it's on them
Yeah.
though. That's what I was saying before. I don't think
I had to
they do
remind
think-
them to give me a silver play button. They don't give a fuck about. They don't know I exist.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, they don't
Yeah.
know. Like every day there's a robot that gets 100,000 subscribers doing I don't know whatever robot things do. They just don't pay attention anymore. It's just
Did you
It's
get
like
the
when
play
you-
button already? By the way.
no, it takes
well,
like a couple months, right?
It takes like they're supposed to review your channel manually to see if you like deserve it, like if you're like a reel or whatever, or if you're up to some shit. And they just didn't for a week, so I had to email them about it, and they just got back to me today with like a redemption code for it.
Oh.
But like
Nice.
I had to remind
Nice.
them that I existed because their automated systems. There's so many people like me that doesn't fucking matter. Like I remember when you're talking about like the idea of like old YouTube being more connected. Like the first thing that I thought of at that moment was the fact that like I think I read there's like something stupid like 100 like 10,000 or 100,000 or 10 million or some bullshit number of YouTube channels that have 1 million subscribers. I think it's like 10,000 channels, like in just an impossible number. Like it used to feel like there was like 6. And I think it's probably
because there used to be 6.
Yeah, like it used to be like,
Yeah.
wow, PewDiePie hit 1 million subs, along with other people that we don't want to remember a lot more, like
Or PewDiePie.
Ray
We also don't
William
want-
Johnson and Smosh and
You want to remember
Shane
PewDiePie?
Dawson.
No, that's what I'm saying. None of those people.
Yeah.
We don't want to remember any of
partly I
them.
just remember a lot of those people don't exist anymore. A lot of the original like
Yeah.
big YouTubers are just gone, or either they're gone because they just kind of stopped, or in many
they have
cases
another
made some
channel.
kind of weird like legal deal with this or that company that ended up dissolving their company in some way, or they the culmination of 10 years of their crimes finally came back to bite them in the ass in the case of Shane Dawson.
Yeah.
He's still making content though, right?
No,
Is he
been
in jail?
He's been like
Is that a no?
legitimately gone for like a
Oh.
year now. I think. I don't think he's come back
has he?
from his like, because he was his whole mask was slipping like fucking crazy with all of his weird bullshit. But then eventually, like people were like, "Hey, let's look at his past and how he's like." Remember how because he used to do these really shitty skits, which is what I knew at him for. Like it was really weird having that era where everyone's like, "Wow, look at his really emotional documentaries. This documentarian Shane Dawson," and like Philip DeFranco would talk about him in those terms and stuff. I'm like, what the fuck, Philip DeFranco? You know who Shane Dawson is? He's the guy that wore blackface for years. Like he had the shittiest, most lowbrow, embarrassing content that was just overtly racist and sexist and just a fucking nightmare. He was like. I was like, it was embarrassing to be on this platform. Like we can talk about like the stuff like on the terms of like Ray William Johnson steals content for a living, or like there's insidious fucked up things going on with PewDiePie and how he's using his platform irresponsibly. But like Shane Dawson was just bile, like unmasked, undisguised, horrible trash that it was like Spider-Man and Elsa, but it was the most popular channel on all of YouTube. Like it was astonishing. And then having people like just forget that weirdly and just be like, oh wow, he's so emotional, he's gonna talk about he's gonna do a redemption arc for these like fucking like Jake Paul and people that he had like a clear financial connection to. Like it was an overt conflict of interest in a way that wasn't even a fucking secret. Like everyone was so fucking stupid for a few years there, and I couldn't tell why it was happening, to be honest. But it was a lot. But he says he's an empath. I lost my fucking shit when he keeps calling himself an empath in all of his videos.
What is that?
Keeps acting like he's so emotional and he cares so much about other people and he just wants the best for people. But then, like, in his fucking he made a fucking conspiracy video about how space lasers from the government are shooting California and causing all the wildfires, and they went to like a part of LA that burned down and like filmed himself looking sad at it and stuff so he can monetize it for his videos. And I'm like, this is so calculated and fucking cynical. Why do people fall for this? But then I remember fucking watching reality TV with people, and it's like, oh, that's why they fall for it. People are really fucking stupid when they consume media that's presented as being like documentary-ish. They just literally believe all of it like at face value uncritically, and it's like that's why suddenly Shane Dawson for like 2 years or whatever was able to redeem himself as this weird other figure, when I'm like, people forget the last like 15 years of Shane Dawson. What the fuck is happening?
Yeah, I guess he hasn't made a video in a year, but he still has a YouTube channel, which is means he's still making money from his channel existing, which is like
thousands. Yeah,
which is great.
He's disgustingly rich and but was always pretending to be down to earth.
It's,
Talk about using your fucking platform irresponsibly. Poor I mean, who gives a fuck about Chuck E. Cheese? But poor Chuck E. Cheese had to like issue statements about their pizza because it's fucking like one of the most popular YouTube channels in the entire world just decided to defame them one day.
I mean,
I'm amazed he doesn't end up in like lawsuits.
They had every right to defame them. I mean, fuck Chuck E. Cheese, garbage ass place, anyways. But
I know, but like, the content that was coming out of Shane Dawson for a while there was like so overtly malicious while pretending to be all emotional. Jesus Christ. There's also like really obviously like, because like I recognized her from his old videos, and I'm like, wait, this whole section of this video is just an ad for his friend's book. Like, and then it's like, oh, hey, here's the book I wrote about the thing that we're talking about here. It's like, this 10 minutes, this fucking conspiracy video was just like a fake story about her, like her fucking, like, it's about stuff that you have to then read about by buying her book. This is just product placement, you motherfucker.
Oh, you mean like every late night talk show?
I'm an empath. I'm so empathic that I brought a fucking therapist with me so that she can like secretly diagnose Jake Paul for whether or not he's a psychopath, like, without telling him that that's why she's here or that's what she does. Like we're gonna fucking catfish therapy diagnosis people. This is just what was happening on like the most popular content on YouTube for like a year or two. I feel I
don't know any of this.
It's
I don't know any of
completely fucking bonkers.
Yeah.
Shane Dawson's been through like 8 stages of being like the worst YouTube channel on YouTube. Like every time is a different version of it, but it's never been better.
6 degrees of the worst channel.
Then like 6 like
degrees of Shane Dawson.
Eventually the full culmination of his sins all came out. And I don't know if it was because of this or not, but there was like a D'Angelo Wallace video that went into great detail about that. I don't know what the timeline is though. I don't know if like that was why people were so aware or if his thing was a response to people becoming aware. But eventually there was just enough backlash about enough stuff. But it was the big reason why a lot of the stuff came out is that Tati Westbrook, Shane Dawson, and Jeffree Star, one of the people that Shane Dawson kept making documentaries about when they're profiting off of them financially, they had this like conspiracy, like here's why James Charles, the other makeup person, is like an evil person because they're like tricking people into being gay or something. And then like after this like the big wave of backlash happens to James Charles like months later or a year later or something, it kind of came out that like Tati Westbrook was just lying about most of the stuff she said in the big takedown video of James Charles, and that it was done alongside Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star as like a coordinated thing that they planned. Like it was just intentional defamation basically, to just all go after what was one of Jeffree Star's financial rivals, because they're all in this makeup industry. It's like some cutthroat shit that's going on.
Jesus Christ.
And so all of that blowing back on Shane Dawson because he's supposed to be, he's trying to build this stupid illusion of being this empathic person or whatever the fuck. Him have like obviously being like this conniving little shit that just attacked somebody because they were fucking aligned with one of their financial rivals was so overtly calculated that was just that just like blew everything wide open. And he even made the mistake of fucking live streaming his response to her video. So you see him having like just having like a breakdown of like, and like his like all of his lies slipping because he's for some reason fucking live reacting to her video of coming out against him. And it was just the dumbest shit. But then like as during that backlash of that happening, people just conveniently suddenly remembered his years of blackface. And then it was kind of over for him. And he has not shown up really since then. And good riddance, because he was always a terrible person. I was getting so fucking frustrated by this whole pretend redemption thing that itself was like so nakedly full of calculated shit that people were just skipping over for some reason.
That whole thing about empath, though, that is really creepy.
Self-declaring yourself as being so empathic.
Yeah, but for one, that's what is that? That's not a thing. But also, that's
say it 12 more times, Shane. I didn't catch it yet.
That's the parasocial relationship thing, where where creators pretend that they're friends with the viewers.
It's the step-by-step process of like conditioning your viewers to think of you in a certain way. It's PR, it's image control.
Yeah,
fucking exhausting. The biggest YouTube channels are just aggressively fake people. And you can literally watch them change from era to era, not in like a, oh wow, I just organically changed, but like they just like rebrand themselves as a personality one day and then just hope no one notices or they forget quickly, which they do. People forget incredibly quickly anything online.
Yeah.
It's hard to remember, Keith. Remembering is a lot of work.
Yeah.
But it's easy to forget.
That's why we had the nostalgia critic. Because he remembered it, so we didn't have to. Oh no, that story ended poorly too.
I remember how Keith used to be good at platformers.
I have never been good at platformers.
Isn't that what people say though about you?
No, it's The Witness. People are like, you used to be smart in The Witness, but you're dumb here. And I'm like, you don't remember. Okay. Because the thing about being
puzzles.
The thing about being a Let's Player is that you are Dr. Manhattan and all parts of your life are replaying simultaneously because people are commenting on all of them at the same time. So my feed is constantly filled with people insulting me by saying that I used to be smart back in the Witness playthrough. That's the reason they subscribed, while also having other people who are currently watching the Witness for the first time insulting me for being so stupid in my Witness playthrough. It's like this, the people have a terrible memory about everything in life, and they constantly revise their narratives because instead of we less have memory and more have stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves. And about other people, and so people's memory of me is this like this genius that did the best Witness playthrough or whatever, which like the second half could still be true or whatever, but I wasn't like some kind of whiz kid going through it, and I'm reminded of that constantly by all the people that are talking about how stupid I am when they're watching The Witness. It's a hell of a juxtaposition. But yeah, we're all Dr. Manhattan. All of our content is up simultaneously. The videos where we accidentally say something insensitive as a 21-year-old are still just as accessible as the ones that we make today, where we're ranting about OnlyFans, and people could just like get suggested from one to the other and have this whiplash and have to reconcile different people that are technically the same person but aren't.
Yeah, that's the thing is that, well, us now, we have the priority basically, but because it's just we have a lot more experience than the person we were back then. But it's just like I remember I think I even said it in a video like well into a year into making YouTube. I remember saying something like, and I knew it was true. Somebody I said because I ramble and then I lose track of what I'm saying and then I don't finish. And I said in a video that if if I don't finish a thought, then you can ask and just say, "Oh, what were you gonna say here?"
But
And
then
I
they
will
bring it.
remember
But then
it.
they like no one says that on your video for like an eternity. But then someone finally watches that video
5
8
years
years later, and then finally asks you what you meant, and you're like,
But I think even a year
that person's
into
dead, sir.
yeah, I think
I
even a year
buried
into
him
doing YouTube,
myself.
I think I could remember a year back, but not now. I think it's too much. I don't remember a month back anymore. I mean, I remember the games that I play. I just don't remember what I say.
It's a lot.
And it also happens, I think, because when you're starting out doing YouTube, everything is fresh, so it just sticks in your memory a lot more. And then as you play more and more games and just go through the motion of doing a full Let's Play, it just becomes more intuitive and just sort of more, I've done this before, I know what I'm doing. So it's not as fresh, and it's just sort of like, oh yeah, I did a Let's Play of I don't know, Banner Saga 3. I remember the story. I have no idea what I said. I don't remember even my reactions to the characters. But that doesn't always happen. Like my reaction to I don't know, to Parvati potentially, or it's just talking about characters in games that I play, and I remember my reactions. I remember the process of learning some games. So, and there's still stuff that sticks with me, but it's just like a lot of it doesn't, because a lot of it is just more. It's another Let's Play. It's just, I've done this before. I'm good. I know.
Like
I know
playthroughs stretch on long enough that there can just be a dissonance within, like, just in the span between when you recorded something and when it goes up, where you're like, you get all these comments like, I can't believe Keith doesn't understand this thing, and I'm like, what? That really rudimentary thing? I super know that thing. What the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, did I ever not know that? I don't even know. What are you talking about? It's a weird experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when that happens. I have done a few times, made comments in reply, just being like, "Oh, dude, you don't even know how much I do not know, and I don't understand that mechanic." Because sometimes, it's that yeah, mistakes are made. It's Let's Plays.
I think sometimes
in my Let's Plays.
Sometimes people just assume you don't know things if you don't actively just sort of like on a loop repeat all the things that you know. Like you have to actively narrate at your entire knowledge base, or people will not know, will not understand that just because you didn't point it out, you do know about that thing. Or like you making a different choice is not the same thing as you not understanding something.
Yeah, especially because sometimes you just make a less than optimal choice for just the giggles, and
or even just less than optimal by their estimation, and only that.
And you can, I mean, making mistakes is a normal thing. People make mistakes. Like it's not. I guess like I think television kind of spoils people with this. Like mistakes on television tend to be intentional mistakes. Like they're mistakes that were left in on purpose, or they were edited into existence. But in like Let's Plays, those are just real accidents that happen. People make a mistake, or don't press a button in time, or don't even the button press needs to be pressed in like 30 seconds. Like there are a lot of, again, it's all live content that can be edited out to only be perfect, but then that wouldn't be the content you're looking for. So it's confusing when people see like failures and go like, what the heck happened? You were so smart. And it's like, yeah, people can just have different days of the week. Some people can just struggle on this day. Like maybe Keith just has to really take a fat shit right now and he can't focus on this puzzle right now. Like you don't know what's going on with this guy today versus like what was going on yesterday. Maybe when Keith finished all the Witness, he had just got done like beating a whole level in Dark Souls that he had been waiting 40 years to beat, and he was riding on a high. And so he's like, and he just came back and he's like, yes, I can do the Witness now. Like people just like moods change, like feelings change. Like when you're making Let's Play content, you're not doing it all in one giant fat sitting burst. You're like over time slowly doing it.
Or you're getting messages in your other monitor coordinating tonight's multiplayer session or anything.
Oh no.
Any number of human things that just can happen. People are so incapable of processing, and not like in mass, but like the people that are dumb enough to say stuff about it oftentimes are just like so weirdly incapable of processing the idea of basic human fallibility on even on the most minor levels, that they immediately have to pathologize it and diagnose it. Like there has to be something wrong with you, which is like a whole other level of weird gaslighty gross shit where you as a content creator start getting like questioning your own like sanity or neurodivergence or whatever, because people like pathologize every mistake you make and you start being constantly told something's wrong with you, which is like a really shitty thing to do to people.
The problem is that when we play games by ourselves, and I say I don't mean YouTubers, I mean everybody. When we play games by ourselves, all of the mistakes are going to be there. Nobody points them out, and we don't know they're mistakes. And then even if we do find out that they're mistakes, we forget how many times, and we just get past that so fast because we don't care. Oh, did I spend 40 hours not knowing that there's a better pickaxe than stone pickaxe in Minecraft? I will never remember that. But you also didn't do 80 episodes of Minecraft where people will remind you.
Yeah, every single.
I didn't do this. It's not a real story.
Every single inopportune thing or mistake is like chronicled in mass in a way that like no human is used to having when they play video games. But there's also just the element of like people's habits when they play video games are really boring, and part of becoming a let's player is trying to find the balance of how to not have those boring habits and so on. Like obviously, like I played Metroid. I played Super Metroid, and I assume that like Andrew, you've played that before, right?
Yes.
Every fucking screen of that game has like 3 secrets on it, but they all require you to have really specific upgrades from later in the game, and also like to painstakingly X-ray scan every surface of every room of the entire game at the end. So like the only way, like people are like, oh, you don't have enough E-tanks or what? That's Mega Man, but you don't have enough tanks of health. You're playing this game wrong or whatever. But it's like I would have to just be like, just really boringly scrape every surface for 6 hours to like make up the difference, like just aimlessly. Like you just would wander around and like, but you'd accidentally re-explore the same place 4 times. Like
you just don't know where this stuff is already. Like the game came out like 20 years ago. Keith,
like
come on now. Like
people don't process like how shitty of a show that would be.
That's why different games are easier to let's play than others, because there's some games just are not made.
And people always double down. They'll always be like, I would watch it. And I'm like, I know you wouldn't. Because whenever I've played a game vaguely in that way, you could just watch the viewership plummet. Like you could just see it happening. It's like the part of my brain that's like, I'm gonna add all of these boring looking but vaguely important Netflix documentaries to my watch list and then never click on them for 5 years. Like you might like to be the person that would watch that or tell yourself that, but the reality of what people actually click on, it's no. People would rather be frustrated by my mistakes than actually see me do what it takes to not make those mistakes, because that's way more boring.
I like the man-eater situation in your current...
The man-eaters, my fucking Demon Souls playthrough, my god, I thought it was going to be such a breeze because I've played the game like 4 times already, and I don't understand. I still don't fully process how much harder it has been, although it's partly because it's like what, 6 or 7 Souls-likes from Software alone or whatever, and they all work completely differently. Like all the rules change. Like in Demon Souls in particular, like it's like D&D rules where like crushing versus slashing versus piercing are such massively different weapon types that they're more important than actually having upgraded weapons. Like sticking to the idea of sticking to a build the way you do in other playthroughs is actually actively detrimental, because having like a level 1 club would have been more effective in many of the levels than having a maximum upgraded katana.
Having a level 1 club is always the most efficient build to have in any Souls-like game. You cannot tell me otherwise.
Andrew, you tell me that the hit detection of Sekiro is good, and I go and watch your video, and as if you only had the one, I go and watch your video, and there's you jumping away from somebody, and the hit detection is not good. How is this, Andrew? How is this?
It's only good when you're doing one-on-one fights in flat ground.
In flat ground, exactly. You're very right. What does Sekiro have?
When you're not
skyscrapers.
Yeah, when you're not in flat ground, Sekiro becomes kind of a nightmare because you're like okay, I'm gonna slash my sword, and the Sekiro guy goes, I'm gonna slash straight. This is a curved building, Sekiro guy. Could you slash like at a curve? And he's like, no, that is not an option. And you're like, why? Why isn't it an option? Why can't I just slash sideways? Like, just do the samurai thing.
It's like how the torch hobos in the first level of Demon Souls are like the most dangerous enemies in the entire game because you have to fight them on a staircase.
Yeah,
and both going up or down the staircase is so dangerous compared to just being able to fight anyone on flat ground.
And like I was like specifically trying to fight this one guy. I don't know if that's you're referencing to like the Shogun guy, the guy that was like at the top of the stairs.
Yeah.
I was trying to fight that guy, and like
the only way
to really. Yeah, and like the only not the spear guy. No.
He was
the guy
so
that's
hard.
I think he had a sword.
Yeah, it's the sword guy. It's the guy that's at the top of the stairs when you first get to like the inside of the castle. So when you first enter the castle, you go past the drawbridge, you go up the big stairs, and there's a big Shogun guy standing there and talking to all the troops or whatever. And so my goal was to just jump onto him, take out one of his health bars really quickly, and then fight him. But while I'm trying to do that, like his enemies his people behind me are attacking me, and the problem I was having was when I would try to like, okay, well, I'm going to go from the top, the stupid fucking bird people would attack me because they could see me from above. I'm like, you guys, all I need to do is kill this one guy. And so when I finally got him alone to be in a corner, I couldn't like hit him because anytime I would hit him, it would bounce off the fucking wall or something. I'm like, God damn it. Like, what the fuck is going on? This is like the worst run I've had of fighting this guy. Like they're just like, you could just see other fights I'm doing. I'm just running up, just like, pop, 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 pop. Okay, move on. Running through. And this guy just for some reason was a pain in the fucking ass. I still beat him, but he was still like a fucking nightmare. I beat I beat the Thunder guy in like 3 runs. Like, I had no issue with him. He's just sitting there like, hey, how's it going? One-shot kill.
I tied the design of Sekiro with the prevalence in later From Software games, the prevalence of multi-stage bosses. And Sekiro obviously has many multi-stage bosses, but I think that's the reason. Because I hate like things like health bars that lie. Imagine a boss fight and you're like just chipping away at the boss, but secretly the boss fight is only half the health bar, and then when you get to half the health bar, the boss dies. So it's just like that. Why would you do that? There is a reason why they do that, and it's to instill frustration and make it more mentally draining on you to fight that fight. But the problem is,
wait till you see the final boss.
Yeah, the final boss is just
it's so uniquely crushing in a situation where like there are plenty boss fights even in Souls games where they seem weirdly easy. So while you're fighting them, you kind of start to suspect that there's like another phase coming because you start to instinctively pick up on the markers for it. And Sekiro boss fights are not like that. It feels like you are fighting difficult. The complete and full boss fight and it's plenty hard enough. And then when they get back up and then sometimes get back up multiple times and become a different boss fight, you're legitimately like, oh my God, but this is the anime moment. I have to draw deep within myself and become something else in order to defeat this because of my current form. This is not possible.
But I had to do doing the monkeys twice, that was that way where you're like, all right, power of friendship, here we go. And you're just like,
when you have a multi-stage boss fight, it's usually the type of thing where you beat phase 1 or 2 or whatever, like in your first couple of attempts, like just the warm up, like, oh yeah, I'm playing this encounter. Like, what do you fucking like slave at a boss fight for an afternoon, and then he has another phase when you finally beat him? That is so uniquely crushing.
Yeah. But I think the problem is that they make those games because they like because obviously they like to play those games, the people who make the people from software, but they like to hone the skill of beating a boss well. And so it's that feeling, then you know a boss well enough and you go back and you defeat it and you know all the moves, and if you beat it, that feeling is nice. I like that feeling. It's good. But that's not the fun aspect of Dark Souls, in my opinion. The fun aspect is you having more or less good grasp of how your weapon works, and then you mess around with the weapon in the middle of a bunch of enemies and dodge and attack and shield and all that things. And the dynamics of the combat is where the game really, really shines. And it's one of the reasons why I think the next Elder Scrolls game really needs to have Dark Souls combat, because it's just so much better than anything else in action games. The sort of the swinging the sword in a determined pattern ahead of you, and the rolling in a determined pattern the way you roll, and so you mess with those mechanics. It's really fun, and sometimes beating a boss on your first try can be really fun, as long as the game is respecting the rules that it sets for you, in the sense that, you know, your movement rules. Because sometimes it's cool to look into. I beat the 3 kings or 4 kings in Dark Souls 1. Is it 4 kings? I don't remember how many, but I beat them in my first try. I think
it's called the 4 kings, but there's technically 5 of them if you play the game. If you play it a certain way, things get weird.
I beat them in my first try, I think, and I had fun. It was fun. It was messy, but it was okay. I had fun with the game, and the next time I go there, I'm sure I'm gonna have fun. It's not. I didn't think it was a battle. I mean, it's a stat check. But if you are very good, you probably can do it with lower stats. But the point is, I think that's where the fun for me of From Software games comes from. And multiple stage battles or boss battles, it's the game developer saying you're not going to learn the second stage as easy because you need to beat the first one, and you're going to be tired. It's going to be a longer wait between the second stage, and so it's so much harder to learn the second stage. And it's like. It's like you know that if you think it's fun to learn a boss, just let me learn the boss. Don't make me frustrated. And I really don't like that mentality.
I just don't like stamina bars. I don't mind the challenge. I don't mind like however long it takes to like struggle to get the timing down on bosses. I just have no fucking interest in stamina bars. I'm not going to manage like how many times I can jump left. I'm not going to manage how many times I'm allowed to block. Like, I hate that. And Sekiro's kind of okay.
Did you play Fury?
I hate its blocking. I don't. Yes, I did play Fury. I did beat Fury.
I was going to say, like, that's the big boss rush thing with no stamina bar and so on.
Oh, and I did great with Fury. I loved Fury. I think I have that on my channel. It was fine. There were some bosses that were a fucking nightmare, but it was fine. But yeah, I don't like the Dark Souls approach to like, all right, buddy, I hope you remember you can only swing twice. And it's like, no, I'm not. I'm never gonna remember that, because if I can beat the shit out of this guy right now, I'm gonna do it. And like Sekiro rewards you for that, where if you're a fucking crazy person and you're willing to slam into an enemy and get out of there right as it's gonna hit you, you can do it. I do that all the time. I just keep slashing somebody, and then this moment I see them move, jump on their head, jump over them, slash, jump over them, jump on their head, just like, you could just do these shitty loops to get them stuck in like I guess I can't do anything now. But that's better than like the Dark Souls approach, where I have to hit somebody twice and like walk the fuck away from them while they do the like, I'm gonna kill you dance, and then you just walk back up to them, hit them twice, walk back again. Like, I hate that stuff. I hate it so much.
The secret to being good at Sekiro was to not really know how to play Dark Souls.
I guess.
People kept saying that from the beginning.
Yeah.
I think for me,
people
the problem
kept yelling
is
at me for playing it like Dark Souls. I'm like, how do I undo that? What the fuck?
For me, the problem is that it seems to me, as I've never played Sekiro, but it seems like Sekiro is a game where you really need to learn what moves can be countered with what things, and then use those things when the moves happen. So you need to identify the move and think very quickly. Yeah. And so basically,
a lot of it is also using your secondary weapon. Like using your shinobi arm is really crucial to getting through a lot of big fights. So like if like a shinobi arm axe is good at breaking people who are high block. So if they're constantly blocking, you can hit them with that while they're blocking, and it breaks through their shield. Like it gives them too much whatever the word is, but the pressure. And so you just axe somebody and start hitting them, axe somebody, and then you just hit them and they bounce off.
Should just say, use the axe against this particular person.
But that's the thing, is that the game, all Souls games are built on the pretense that it doesn't matter. It doesn't need to tell you that because the whole fun is figuring it out. The fun
I don't
is
like that, though.
is like, well, yeah,
I
because
always
that's
wonder
not,
how much the player base figures things out versus going online and
They
looking
just look it up. I bet they just look it up.
and that's
'cause that-
fine, but that's not the intended.
Because that's the entire that's the entire community of Monster Hunter is just researching how to play the game because the game doesn't teach you how.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, that that's fine. There, I'm like you can like Witness is probably a good example of this. I imagine there's a lot of people who played Witness and just noped out halfway through and just said like, you know what, just tell me how to do this. I can't remember how to do this one last puzzle. Like some of those puzzles, there's like, oh, I can do 3 of these in this set, and then one of them is like, I wish I could be dead and just never have to play this game again. And it just like, so I imagine there are people, and the intended purpose of that is because the more you play puzzles in the Witness, the more your brain starts adapting, just like Talos Principle, your brain starts to mold into this headspace of, oh, I see what you're supposed to do now. You're trying to trick me, but I will not be fooled. And like, Dark Souls is the exact same way. You see a big boss and you go like, oh my God, psych, I don't give a fuck. I know exactly how to beat your ass. And you start running in and like the fucking boss is like, all right, stop. Okay, stop. I just fucking like, and that's just like, that's the whole point of those kind of games. And so I think not telling the player anything is supposed to put them at that advantage where they don't know how to do anything. And it sucks. You hate it. You go like, I feel weak and worthless and the game just is mocking me every step of the way. And eventually you build a spite and you're like, no, I will beat you and I'm going to beat you in every way possible. And you just grab a club and you just start hitting people with clubs. And even someone says, no, clubs aren't good here. I don't fucking care. I'll beat them with a club. And you keep doing it. And eventually the game's like, all right, dude, if you know the timing and the dodging and you can just club your way through it, I guess. But like, I would argue that is the joy of Souls games is the freedom. It doesn't tell you what you're supposed to do, and that gives you the option to do literally anything. And the game's not going to tell you did it wrong, but you're going to feel like the game isn't working the way it should be because it's hard to get through. But
or impossible.
I don't know. Or impossible. But that's the thing though. Realistically, is there any part of any Souls game where you cannot continue unless you do something exactly?
It happened to me. It happened to me,
Really?
but I think I might have just been a noob. There's the ancestral demon in the lava area of Dark Souls 1. I don't remember if it's the ancestral demon. It's when you start seeing the Capra demons, the little ones.
Ceaseless Discharge? The funniest
there's the
thing
Ceaseless
ever.
Discharge that I beat
Ceaseless Discharge.
I didn't know how to beat it, so I just had to cheese it, and I did. But that was
Ceaseless
refund on
Discharge
that
was that
game.
guy that you tricked into falling off the cliff, Andrew.
Yeah. But the boss right after that one.
He has the most
boss right after that one.
bafflingly lewd sounding name.
Yeah. To go with a gaping dragon. It's the boss right after. It's the boss right after that one. Do you remember? It's one of the little flying.
It's the stray demon, I think. It's the asylum demon, but it explodes.
That guy against my sway
There's
hander.
3 asylum demons in that game, but no, it's flawless. It's the best in the franchise.
That guy against my Zweihander would always do a certain type of attack that I would just not be able to dodge away from, and it's the AOE attacks because his AOE is bigger than the normal AOE of the other ones, and I would just not be able to dodge it. I would just die. And somebody was I don't remember who it was, but there was somebody on my chat and just being like, use a longsword, not a Zweihander. And I was just like, no, I like this way. I was getting frustrated. And then I switched to longsword. It never attacked with that specific attack. And I know that the way the bosses are designed, they do change their attack patterns based on the weapons that you have. So it's normal for them to do that. It wasn't just a random chance, or at least it wasn't just that. It might have been a random chance, but they never used that attack. And I was just beating it in my first try with my longsword. And it's just
you can fall into like incredibly specific patterns with certain enemies.
It could be that, yeah.
They just like you standing in certain spots changes what they do. Mm-hmm. Like the ancient dragon was the most like crushingly difficult boss fight when I played it the first time through, because like every single thing he could do would just one shot you, and he had so much health and he had to play so well for so long. And he would do this bullshit where like he would like get up in the air and fly through the sky and blow up half the level, and it's like, sure hope you could sprint to the right spot fast enough and react in time. It was like some really like raid boss shit. Like it was really some really infuriating stuff. And yeah, like him like sneezing in the wrong direction, it one shots you, and it's just agony. And I would summon people to help me, and it's like the one boss fight in all of Souls where you can't even summon people to help you because they'll just get one shot at the fucking door, because among other things, the ancient dragon shoots fire at the door when you come in, which you just dodge by running out of the way of, but then anyone coming in with you, which can only enter the gate after you, enters the fog gate into the fire and dies instantly when the fight's starting. So now he has more health and is harder than he was before, and none of your backup survived opening the door in the first place. But then you find out you can just stand like in his toes.
Yeah.
And like he'll do the same stomp animation over and over again when you're standing by his toes. He'll just keep trying to step on you. So you just like dodge out of the stomp, stab him, dodge out of the stomp, stab him, and just loop for the entire fight, and he dies. Like that kind of shit. So sometimes I don't think the enemy specifically reacts differently to the Zweihander or whatever, but like you using a different melee weapon can change your behavior and your attack range and where you're standing in ways that completely changes the behavior of the characters and so on.
Mm-hmm.
I still wonder if it was a glitch or not, but like
I used that.
I remember when Andrew played against Ornstein and Smo, like they were just behaving bafflingly, and it's like, why are they doing this? What is happening? I've never seen this before. Okay. Or like I played the Demon Souls in the Demon Souls remake. The other dragon, the dragon god, just didn't attack me.
Dragon god.
What? The dragon god just didn't attack me
in the remake.
Yeah, I just went over there, broke that debris, fired that harpoon at him, went over there, broke the other debris, fired the other harpoon at him, and then just beat him to death. And he just never attacked me.
I remember.
And I was like, what? I've been stuck. I have gotten so stuck on this fucking boss fight before because its stealth is so janky. And I'm like, how do I avoid these massive one-shotting attacks? And this time he just didn't attack me. I'm like, what do I do with that information?
You write a wiki about it, and you make people really upset that your playthrough doesn't align with.
You said Dark Souls. You mean in the remake of Demon Souls?
In Demon Souls, yeah.
Oh, I thought you said Dark Souls remake. Sorry.
I don't know what I said.
Yeah. I was.
Roll the tape back. I caught that by live viewer. I'm not editing it.
Nah, don't worry. It is possible that it's that, but I don't know. I think sometimes it's just that like when we don't know how to play a game very well or don't have experience, there's a lot of stuff that we miss. So our memory is going to be like, no, it definitely changed the behavior. I think it did. I'm pretty sure it did, but maybe it didn't. I don't know.
There can be all sorts of arcane stuff going on, and sometimes you just don't even know what to look at or what to think it could be.
So to answer the question, and Andrew and Keith.
Yeah, to answer the question from 2.5 hours ago, yeah, I don't think anyone's going to start an OnlyFans.
You don't know that.
Took us 2.5 hours, but we got to the answer, which is maybe from Andrew, apparently.
No.
and no from me.
And no from me. A Fansly, though.
Fansly?
I'm going to create my own. I'm going to make a page on my own website that I have because I have my own website because I'm an old man, and I'm going to make it password protected. And the only way to get the password is to subscribe to my OnlyFans. And once you subscribe to my OnlyFans, it's actually going to have the part 1 of a password. The other part of the password is you have to subscribe to my Fansly account. And once you get both passwords, then you have to use morphogenetic fields to actually know the password from your future self who has access already, to then combine the 2 passwords you got and the morphogenetic field password into the correct password to enter my website. And so if you can't do that, you'll never know the hidden saucy water bottle content that you're missing out on my
when getting your backer
page.
rewards is like fucking assembling Exodia.
Tell me the new game.
And the final part is acquired from a unique NFT that only one person can buy.
Oh, no, not NFTs.
Be immediately lit on fire.
Tell me the new game
I-
doesn't have morphogenetic fields.
It wouldn't be a
Of course
zero escape game if it
that's
didn't. What the fuck?
That's the premise of the franchise is morphogenetic
That's-
fields.
It's literally the foundation that the entire plot is built on. Without it, you have no fucking plot.
Yeah, there's
I bet the
escape
word in
rooms. The only options are people. You have to have escape rooms. You have to have people dying, but there's multiple timelines, so the deaths aren't permanent. And then morphogenetic fields, meaning that people have information passing from one timeline to the other. That's the conceit.
That's fair. That's fair.
Everything
I
else
think
is
that
that's
in
the bare
mold.
minimum.
In fact,
It
they
must
mold the
sound-
fuck out of it. Zero Time Dilemma, like you'll see it when it happens. Its core premise is fucking weird in a way that's unique to it compared to the previous games. It does something really strange.
I don't know.
No need to
I'm-
spoil it. No need to spoil
Yeah,
it.
I'm very, 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 very worried because we're still at the as a recording.
It's happening tomorrow.
Yeah,
Tomorrow's going to
yeah.
be the day we finally get to do something that might be really infuriating because we just encountered a
we've
plot
only-
point that's going to be like it's establishing something that like can really fuck with everything. It's like
Yeah, right now
we're adding this to the narrative.
We've been spending a lot of time doing the fluff.
Filler.
So we've done all of the fun little
These games are like
puzzles
80%
and-
filler.
Yeah, and so we haven't actually touched a single part of the story yet. And so now all that's left is the story. And now this becomes the death march.
Yeah, this
where we
playthrough
have
is going to be
endure
filler for
the ideas.
months.
Yeah, which is not our fault. It's not
Yeah.
like we're playing it incorrectly. We're doing exactly as the game intended.
we're playing it faster
but-
than ever before because the other games we infamously stop for long periods of time to yell about whatever because it's a visual novel where you press A to continue. But the third game is like a Telltale
Yell.
game where it has voiced and live cutscenes for most of its story. So we
Aw.
can't it's just happening and we'll like quip here and there, but we have to like talk about it between the cutscenes. So
Oh, that's not
fundamentally,
as good,
so
though.
we're going faster than ever before. Oh yeah, it's definitely not as good.
Oh no, but you know what?
Just like how
said
people
this
were
is the good one.
disappointed. I mean, they did not say that, but just like how people were disappointed by the third game existing, they're going to be disappointed by the third Let's Play because of those kinds of format changes. Both the part where Andrew and I are not in the same room because that's like not really realistic for this kind of game anymore because we're further apart than ever before, but also because like the game doesn't, even though it's the big thing people complain about all the time. In the actual playthrough, it's also what people that love about it that actually liked the playthrough is all those like large tangents in the middle of the dialogue, but like it's all real-time dialogue this time around.
Yeah, that sucks.
I think so far I think it's better than the other two games, but it's because I've only gotten
you haven't seen the real shit.
Yeah, that's 'cause I haven't said anything
I
yet.
don't know what's gonna happen. So far it's just like, oh, this is kind of nice how like first of all like a lot of the arts this is some janky budget shit going on, but a lot of the art is like better and like the drama and interactions in real time cutscenes are usually better. We complained a lot about the time dilation happening in other games where it's like we open the door, now we gotta like all touch our bracelets to the thing, let's have like a fucking weirdly extended dialogue segment of us all being dramatic about this thing that happens every fucking time and is not worth writing about every time. And it's like or like all those scenes where like Junpei saw so-and-so dead and his mind collapsed into itself and life is a prison and I'm crying blood and 5 minutes of sad dialogue as all of reality shuts down. It's like, nah, in this game there's no narrator. None of the characters are a narrator. There's no internal monologue of any character. And every cutscene plays out in real time via dialogue and interactions. So the pacing doesn't have the same problems that visual novels normally have, of just being absurdly overwritten with no editing. It's the same thing that happened in I talked about this in my Death Stranding playthrough, which is that like Death Stranding has these really brilliant, well-directed and enthralling cutscenes. But the majority of the game is fucking jabbermouth dialogue where a lower paid actor that doesn't matter that much or dead man just like talks for a long time at Sam, and Sam doesn't respond, and that's like most of the game is people just talking at Sam, dumping exposition for like 10 minutes at a time. And like that's like every delivery, and that's every subquest, and that's most of the game. But like whenever the game does like an actual animated proper cutscene, it's like, oh, this is great. Why isn't the whole game like this? Like if you only had this, you wouldn't even be missing that much of the narrative, because all that exposition doesn't actually amount to much, but it drags the pacing down horribly and so on. And so like the first 2 Zero Escape games are like all the jabbermouth shit from Death Stranding, and the third game is like the cutscenes of Death Stranding. And it's like, this is a nice change. I like that. It feels like a fucking story is just going somewhere, even during the filler shit, because it's still filler shit right now. Because a core conceit of the multiple timeline shit is that you have to have like 6 or 7 or 12 paths that just keep going and going, where it's like, I went this way, and then this person died, and then I went that way, and some other person died, and what's this Mr. Rue vaguely hinting at? What could that thing mean? You won't know for 12 more fucking hours. And so it's like... That's why we call it filler, because there's like, at best like 2 semi mysteries that have been sort of established, and we only really even know they're mysteries because, as opposed to just more inconsequential bullshit, is the fact that you have to like, they're like gates that you have to pass via knowing something from somewhere else, and that's like it.
What I'm looking forward to is figuring, and I don't know if you've gotten there already. This is all preview, so don't think of me as pressuring you to talk about it. But I really liked the realization of having to go through the same paths to get the different endings that you had, primarily in the second game, and the pain that is recorded on video about having to go through all the same things.
Like in 999, the flow chart is like, oh, this is kind of a helpful way to detail what the fuck's going on. And like, it's funny because the flow chart didn't exist in 999 when it first came out. They added it in later revisions. Originally in 999 you had to replay the entire game from scratch and just mash through and skip through all the dialogue, including resolving previous rooms in order to go to the other branches, which thank God that got revised. Jesus Christ. But yeah, in Zero Escape, the game's incomprehensible without a flowchart, because it has like literally like 20 paths or some shit that all go run in parallel, and because the whole game takes place in the same locations with the same characters with only minor differences, like, oh, this is the timeline where this character is found dead, and by that timeline I mean like a third of all timelines this one character died at this part, and that's like trying to via context clues figure out what the fuck is happening or where you are in the timelines would have been so fucking confusing. So they just give you the chart, but then you see this chart of just a crushing amount of content, and then you're playing through it and you realize how samey it is and how much you're just touching upon the same things over and over again, and and over time it just you're just getting worn down by this infinity screen. It's just like, oh. I have felt that so much less in Zero Time Dilemma, because one, it's smaller and it's better paced, and its weird timelines don't constantly fucking replay the same scenes the same way the other one does, and that's just such a nice change. You're just like, oh, like I was God, by the time you finish Zero Escape, you get so tired of finding that one character dead in that one room, and then the other character freaks out that character died, and it's like most of the fucking timelines are that character dying in that room, and it's like, I'm so tired of revisiting this, please stop.
Yeah.
No, there's some really playful, creative choices actually made in this game that I appreciate.
They still managed to cram in a lady with her breasts hanging out.
Yeah, but she's the least weird choice so far. She's a lady dressed like a normal person might, but then with the added choice to just open that shirt.
Open her shirt and let her breasts hang out.
She's wearing normal clothes, whereas
That's
like they had
true.
to make up with Lotus, they had to make the contrivance like, oh, she's a belly dancer that got kidnapped on her way home from work. Whereas like with Clover and Alice, they didn't even try to come up with an explanation. They're just like, I don't know, we were clubbing or something, and we're just like dressed like insane people. And it's like Clover, you're like, okay, I can vaguely get that. Like I've seen people dressed like Clover before.
That's fair.
Alice, I've never seen on Earth. She has like a metal ring that covers her boobs, and that's it. Like there's no bra, there's no under boob anything. It's just a ring laying over the top of her boobs, like she's a fucking like like a fucking Rule 34 Sonic character, and that's just what she wears the whole game, and you're supposed to take it seriously, and she keeps getting murdered, and she's a secret agent, and you're like, what the fuck does this character? This isn't. And that's on top of all the retcon nature of her character. That's really insulting. Like I hated everything about that.
That was really. It ruined the ending of. Well, was it post-credits scene? I don't remember if it was post-credit or the ending itself of the first game.
I think it was the pre-credits. I think it's the I think it's the stinger like splash screen.
I can't believe we're making another podcast about complaining about Zero Escape.
Yeah. Well, you're
just wait until after we finish it.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we're gonna have like a belly full of them, just talking. I mean, I shouldn't intrude myself in the conversation because you're the Let's Play stars.
I'm still wondering how it's going to turn out. Like, am I going to end this with the fucking contrarian ass opinion that Zero Time Dilemma is the best one or something? I won't know till all the dumb shit happens because it'll be dumb.
I'm just glad it will be over. Just glad I can finally put it behind me, and I can't wait until I can justifiably finally stand on my giant stupid fucking shoebox and with a megaphone shout, I was right, the whole game is fucking garbage. If you just threw it away, we would have been okay.
Well, that's an
no one can argue
to come,
because it could be like, you didn't finish the third one. Well, I did, and it was also trash, and like the end. Easy.
I just think about the fact that like when I played Paper Mario, people were like, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door actually addresses a lot of your issues with the first game. And then I play Thousand Year Door, and I'm like, did it address anything? And then people are like, oh, Super Paper Mario will address your criticisms of Thousand Year Door. And I'm like, this is a fucking trap. But then Zero Time Dilemma legitimately addresses like a lot of my complaints about about Virtue's Last Reward. And I was like, oh, it was true for once.
It was true.
I don't know.
The only complaint I had wasn't solved, which is I wish everyone would. I wish that the story just wasn't so stupid. Like I just wish it wasn't so bad. And like we already had. Like What's funny is the story can be dumber in a good way, because like Shibuya Scramble is in many ways dumber but better. Oh, it's a stupid story, but it's a lot more fun.
You can get there's paths where you get taken out by a diet drink.
We literally had one of our recording sessions, I think the last one we had, where there were 4 Wikipedia entries back to back, where we were like, okay, just please stop, just close the web browser and actually write a story. Like every person's yeah, like people were just sitting there like, what if it's this or this or this or this?
Of when the narrative is like, let's just explain Schrodinger's cat again. Like those kinds of moments.
Yeah, but it was like back to back, and so we're just like non-stop getting hit with these like long ass fucking explanations for things that we either already know or are actually not relevant at all. I still get comments all
the time on the Schrodinger cat episode of Zero Time Virtue's Last Reward, with people just losing their shit because like I think 5 feels the need to explain Schrodinger's cat via like 4 examples, and they just get increasingly wrong. Like they start to show even more and more that the author themselves doesn't understand Schrodinger's cat, despite having made a whole game about it.
Because they focus so much on, I think I have a vague recollection, because they focus so much on the cat and the process of the killing. Isn't that what happens?
It's just a lot. Exactly. They keep making more and more explanations. I think one of the explanations is a coin flip, and I'm like, that's literally not how Schrodinger's cat works. Yeah. You cannot equate it to flipping a coin.
But I think I might be wrong, but I think the Schrodinger's cat but experiment or thought experiment was supposed to. It's like a disproof. It's supposed to be impossible. Like it's not how it works. It was Schrodinger being like, quantum physics doesn't work because look at the cat. You can't think of it as being alive and dead. But obviously that's just a metaphor. And I think that it was supposed to be just a Schrodinger misunderstanding quantum physics. So even Schrodinger's, I might have to read. I think
I remember hearing something about how like the actual example in the first place was supposed to be farcical or something. Like it wasn't supposed to even be taken that.
Maybe it's directly. A whole process, and I'm just
There's just a certain element in it that continues even into Zero Time Dilemma where it's like it's like a series of Vsauce videos. Like I like to the point where like there's just entire topics that I only know about because of like random video essays and Vsauce and other type of like quirky like let's talk about this today, and I'm like, oh my god, they're gonna do that. Oh shit, yeah, we're doing that. All right, the fucking game show thing. All right, here we go. I know what this is.
I unsubscribed to Vsauce because they were publishing too many 1-minute videos in vertical camera, and I was like, unsubscribe. And now I'm a rube that doesn't know things.
the one source of information, Vsauce.
It was the one. And now
we
it's
gotta
only
go.
Markiplier.
We definitely gotta go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's already almost 3 hours.
We're super over time today.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, question answered. How many people here will make OnlyFans accounts? 0.5 is the answer. That's the number. Enjoy. Look forward to look forward to Zero Time Dilemma an hour
You're gonna
ago.
announce when
or 2 hours ago. It'll happen like 2 hours before this podcast airs, I think.
Oh,
wait, what? It airs today?
Yeah,
Well,
not today
for
today,
us.
but tomorrow today. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, by the time this episode goes up, Zero Time Dilemma will have premiered. Ooh. And then I will be closing the comment section because we gotta finish the rest of the game, which we're fairly far. But I gotta finish it before people start spoiling shit, because people are really stupid. You're stupid, people. You're so stupid. People just spoil things all the time. It's just so frustrating. And they're so dumb about it. They're so look at your comment and think about what it would be like to read that comment if you're somebody who's currently playing through the game, and just assume people are smart, and you'll realize really quickly how easily people would decode your comment to realize the spoiler that you're quote unquote not writing or whatever. Like I'll never get over people like quoting a thing you say and then giving like a sly like haha knowing look, or wow, crazy he said that, huh? And it's like, yeah, cool, every single person on the planet that reads that comment knows what you said.
You must get so many of those, Keith. You must get so many.
It happens all the time.
You all say that. My God.
It's so frustrating. People will just quote what you said and then not say the spoiler. But the fact that they're quoting what you said with like a knowing look or whatever kind of like emoji thing, like that's the spoiler. There's only one reasonable explanation for what you mean by that. I'm not an idiot. Like, Jesus. And the other one is when you have a theory and then people just say, nah. And they don't understand that like approving the negative is also a spoiler.
Yeah, that's also spoiler.
Which is its own frustration.
And rude. More rude than a normal spoiler.
Like, it's the end of the podcast, so I'll say one spoiler about Zero Time Dilemma, or Virtue's Last Reward, sorry, the previous game, as an example. So if you haven't played Virtue's Last Reward, fucking end the podcast. It's over already. This is the end. But like, I'll never get, like, one of the dumbest ones was that, like, literally in part 1 of the playthrough, somebody spoiled the end of the game without realizing they were doing so, because of this kind of like frustrating commenter, which is that we looked at the cast of characters like you always do, because it's fun to look at the cast and be like, oh, what's that person's deal, and like guess what's going on. And I looked at Sigma and said, oh, he looks like an older Junpei. And so somebody quoted that I said that guy looks like an older Junpei, and did like a little like looky jokey, oh crazy, he said something about an older Junpei, huh? And it's like, that's a gargantuan spoiler for Virtue's Last Reward, is the gesturing at the idea of an older Junpei being in the game. That's a problem. And like, that was like, wow, dodged a bullet there, because at the time I was reading the comments, I thought we were safe from spoilers because we were like dozens of hours into the playthrough at that point, and we were nearly finishing it. And when that comment happened, we had hit that spoiler the day before. Like, we just barely hit that spoiler before the premiere of the series happened. And it's like, y'all can't be trusted. You are irresponsible.
No comments.
And like, this is my warning to all of you guys, because like, you're ruining it for each other. Like, there's a bunch of people in the audience that are experiencing the game through the playthrough, and these spoilers ruin the game. So fucking behave better. Just tag your spoilers or shut the fuck up. Like, you don't have to post the fucking, like, I'm in the know comment. Like, be responsible. You're just being shitty to other people in the comment section and ruining the game for them. So think about your shit.
You can't spoil it for us.
But despite this warning, I'm not trusting any of you. I'm literally closing my browser. I'm closing my browser tab for the comments. I'm just not going to read comments on my YouTube channel for like weeks until we're done with this game. There's too much like build up to this silly playthrough. Goodbye.
Okay.
Good night, everybody. Email your
Finally.
questions, dialogchoicespodcast@gmail.com, so we can spend 2.5 hours not answering them.
Just
Or
finished
answering one of them.
making my accounts.
Did you really?
Yes.
See you guys next time.
Goodbye.